Don't touch anything.
Touch anything.
Touch it. Do you have another one? It's like tickling my mouth.
But is it cat like butt hair? Is it cat taint hair? Mine has hair on it too, but I'm choosing to consider it a perk.
Do it. Nope. There's good. This one's good.
Lauren's the house guest who hands you back the glass you gave her and is like, there's slime on the rim of the cup you gave me. Would you please rewash my cup?
Well, what the fuck is the slime? Not.
Lauren's like,
well, and I wouldn't do that. I would take the glass. I would say, hey, is there another glass I could use? And then I would go transfer it myself.
You would go, yeah.
Yeah.
You would.
So I'm sorry. So what you're saying
like
is if I give you a glass that has mystery slime on the rim, you're just going to drink it?
Girl, I just let it ride, and you know that's how I am. That's why I'm with Kevin, because we're equally filthy.
Yeah, right?
No.
You get that glass, you go, it's slime time, and you just take it down.
No.
Don't be rude.
My boyfriend is perfectly willing to kiss me with his breath smelling of sleep and fish sauce.
No,
we are gross.
The fact is that you are willing to take the kiss with him smelling like
I'm not.
sleep and fish. Oh, okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
I tell him.
You give him back the glass?
I send him like mouthwash emojis.
While you're sitting next to him.
It doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. I do send him to gargle.
Is that how you say Google?
That's how gays say Google, yes.
Gargle.com.
Yes.
Gargle, yes.
Gargle.com.
I'm going to go gargle that.
I'm going to go gargle that, yes.
That's going to be the next dating app for gay men. It's going to be called
Gargle.
Gargle.
That's
With
good.
no E at the end. So you can trademark it.
Yes, it would be gargle with an L. Why is that you can just like leave the last vowel off?
You have
and
to
it's,
be able
like,
to.
stylish.
It's trademark. No, it's trademarkable.
Oh, yeah.
You imagine all the happy
Yeah.
couples are like, we met on Gargle.
Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck is that? There are no happy couples that meet on Gargle.
You can't be
It's
on it unless you
They're
swallow.
momentarily happy.
So is
Short-term
it
happiness.
is it just getting head and like
You swish it around. I mean, you swish it around.
It
You
is
swish
what
around.
it is what it is. That's how it starts.
Oh my God. Last time I took a BART into this city, you, Scott, had a absolute meltdown trying to find parking. And I was fresh off a near assault. And you called me and you were like, I'm actually in a rage right now. I should call you later. And you hung up.
Yeah.
He called you to tell you he was in the
Yeah, I
rage.
have to share my rage
he
sometimes.
realized the call was not possible because parking was ongoing and it was so enraging. And so he said, I shouldn't call you right now, and hung up. And I didn't have time to tell him that I had watched a schizophrenic woman lift her hand and for like 6 long minutes threatened to bash somebody who was sitting there innocently on the BART, like with her fist.
Oh my God.
And her titty was like hanging out. Like, I mean, it's like such a disgusting, bad life moment. And I was like, do I run to another train or make sure I help prevent a physical assault? And she was like, this is all like 8 feet away and totally horrifying. And then you were like, I can't park. And I was like, I'm okay. I'm having a falafel.
In my defense, it was Friday night in San Francisco where parking is
horrendous. And you were in the Mission, right?
Impossible. Yes, in the Mission.
Yeah. Like 16th in Mission, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It was impossible.
There's practically people like flipping signs in the air and catching them that say like give up all hope. Like like arrows that point to another neighborhood. I went over and asked the woman who she almost hit if she was okay. I was like, are you okay? And she got annoyed. She was like, why wouldn't I be? And I was like, and then she goes, that woman's in more pain than I'll ever be in.
Oh God.
I was like,
she did a land acknowledgement. Delete that.
It's 2024. I think you can leave that in.
Okay.
No, but yeah, my reaction was I was like, that's correct. I hate living here. Thank you. For like the full, I was like, it wasn't complete until now. God bless you. I was like, no, I'll leave. I was checking on you. I'm an asshole. I was like, that was it.
And then you peed on her and it was okay. Right? She was fine with it.
She was
then?
like, can you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're on your way out. You're like, don't worry, I'll be in more pain than you'll ever be in. I'm in more pain right now than you'll ever be in. I'll see you later. Bye.
That's when you just hand her your business card and say, I'm a therapist here.
I just graduated. Yeah, no, she would have been like, you white piece of shit. And
yeah,
cut that out, double that, loop that, echo that, put a lot of reverb on that.
White piece of shit, shit.
My single. That's a bop.
Ari, we scooted over, but you were just saying you graduated. So I keep asking, are you Dr. Ari? Do we call you Dr. Ari now?
I did. No, but I will like wear a lab coat, and if I touch you, it's inappropriate.
Will you carry a stethoscope, like a stethoscope and one of those, the big shiny metal things for your forehead?
Yes, and it's 2024, so if you ask me to look at a lump, I will call someone in, especially if it's around your butthole.
Oh,
I'll call in an assistant to make sure nothing. I did that once.
No, you have to call in like 3 assistants.
I did.
Right?
I did that once. I asked my doctor what something was, and it was near my butthole, and he was like, I'm gonna call someone in.
I'm gonna call an intimacy coordinator.
Yes, yes, and she did not look happy. She was like, "Sure, fine."
She's like, another fucking butthole, Dr. Jim.
I get it though. I was like, you can't trust anybody in America with anything. Call someone in. I'm ready to call someone in just to do therapy for the rest of my career. I'm so sick of people's shit.
Like when someone tells you something that's particularly egregious, you're like, hold on. Hey, you got to bring in a second.
Absolutely.
This is the assistant therapist now.
I mean,
you're talking about your childhood? I'm calling someone in. Hold on.
This is the cure to Karens, really. You just got to get a Karen there to witness it. Who's hypersensitive and being like,
we're so nice, and sometimes I really do think we should have an additional person in the room to be like, hold on, I'm going to pause this and just say to the client, like, you're being kind of an asshole. like this is uncomfortable because of a little bit of weird, edgy shit that you're doing the entire session. Can you stop? Like, some of the like making sure the client feels okay goes a little too far. And everyone's in supervision, everyone's so casual with like, do you need to push back? It's like, oh, you push back. Why don't you do it? Like, it's not fun. It's
what do you mean by push back?
It's fucking awkward.
Like, give me an example.
So say I said like, I'm going to visit my niece and I only see her once in a while. And then my client says like, oh, I need to take notes from your niece on how to not feel abandoned. Because she doesn't get to see you as much as she wants to, and she feels abandoned. Maybe she's good at it by now.
Shit.
She's had a lot of practice.
That's a dig.
Yeah, I've had this kind of comment a few times, and then someone will be like, "You have to let them know that that what they're doing is hurtful," and you just, after all the hard work that you do to make sure that you're in their world. Like you're doing a lot of work to be in their world on their terms. And you can also get this really deep felt sense that they can't take feedback very well. So you're looking for the right way to have the smallest possible conflict with them that is illuminating for them, but doesn't like absolutely electrocute their system. And it's true. I mean, it's true. Like, you don't want to have no conflict with them. That's bad for them. But and that client, I've had conflict with them. Like, I don't not do my job, but oh boy, like, and usually that kind of client too will like, you'll get through that one conflict. You'll get through some conflict that you have with them reasonably well, and then they'll retaliate later. And then you'll just be sitting there thinking, I know this is because I made you have a healthy conflict with me. I know you're getting revenge.
Do you think they're like holding on to it for that long and just waiting until...
People can be so fucking bitter.
Petty.
It's so sad. It's so sad. But the person has you're again, like, when you're this kind of person in this kind of role, you want the person to have a healthy relationship in their life, and all their other relationships are damaged to fuck. I wonder why. So you're sort of like, no, you're gonna have a good relationship with me. And then you're like, I'm firing you.
I I kind of get it though. It is fun to be petty sometimes. Like the act, doing it and then like bringing something back from way back and being like, I gotcha. That is very satisfying on the petty person end.
That's satisfying. You like that?
I do.
Oh,
sometimes I enjoy it.
I'm scared.
I am scared also because I just like that to the nth degree.
I'm too lazy to like let it wait, but if it just comes up, I'm like, oh, look at this, a little turnabout is fair play happening. I like that. I enjoy that.
It's sad when so that makes me very sad. But I think it is true that if there's a charge within us and it comes up, it's hard for it to not be there. You know what I mean? Like if there's something that happened in a conflict and then it's.
Are you just kid gloving Scott right now because he said something real scary and
wait? Did I say something real scary? What? I'm talking like you see somebody being a dick you're driving, right? You see someone be a dick, and then like later on down the road, they like smash their car and crash, and you're just like, ha 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 ha. That's excellent.
Different. That's Schadenfreude. Like that Freud. Yeah, that's different.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Well, we assumed that you meant someone that you're in a long-term relationship with, and you have a chance for them to get their comeuppance, not a stranger on the road.
Yeah, I thought you meant somebody.
Everyone on the road can crash and die, and I'll laugh.
No. I take
100%.
Sorry, I meant I take satisfaction when like that turnabout fair play when that happens and someone else gets their comeuppance, and I'm like,
who are assholes?
I'm like, yeah, that's probably not good, but it's sort of you had that coming.
I mean,
Lauren's still wanting clarification if you mean friends or strangers.
You just mean strangers, right?
I think so.
Okay. Good.
I'm not in the action of doing it. I'm just watching this happen. I guess that is a Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. False alarm.
What's up, Adrian?
What's up?
How you doing?
How much revenge do you like on people you love, Adrian?
All of it.
Like
all of the revenge.
Like from like a 0 to 10, you'd be like 10, 9.9.
Like
12.
Quietly constructing everybody's demise.
7 years later, it will come to pass 7 years from now. You will not see it coming.
Is this like spy level? Like they won't even know it's you?
Totally.
But they'll subtly remember you because of what you did and be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that to Adrian. I don't know why I'm thinking about that.
It'll be a subtle clue.
They'll see something smooth and then your head will appear and they'll like in their mind's eye and they'll be like, Adrian.
But it won't actually be you. It'll just be someone you hired that looks just like you. And then they'll be like, oh, weird. Why did I think it was Adrian?
You'll know when you suffer and an Adrian lookalike is nearby. That's your clue.
That's my clue.
That's your clue.
But that's satisfying enough for me.
You shouldn't have said that thing.
I mean, you're probably in a building far away using your super zoom lens to watch it all happen. Just that subtle change in emotion, the tiny micro emotion that changes when they realize it's not you, and then you just die happy.
He goes perfect, puts his cap back on the binoculars, and walks out of the room. My job is done.
Mm-hmm. You have a celebratory cigarette when you walk downstairs. Just 2 puffs, and then you put it out.
Vanishes into a crowd. Really cool.
Do you think you have any retaliatory drive? You seem deeply unretaliatory.
Yeah. That's a good question.
It's interesting because it's very subjective. Because resentment is a healthy process that happens to everyone. So we've all had some familiarity with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt do I like take satisfaction in seeing the downfall of somebody who I despise.
Who's been a complete dick.
Yeah. Who's just been a fucking asshole.
Yeah, I had a boss like that where any news we would have gotten would have made us howl.
100%. Yeah, I had an old like he was an executive at a company, and he got like ass cancer or something like that. I don't know. And it was
that same exact thing happened at an old company of mine where somebody was such a jerk and he got brain cancer, and the oh no's were so dampened. It was so unconvincing whenever anyone was like, well, that's unfortunate. It was always like, well, I guess he'll have to make a plan for that, won't he?
I guess it's not so good when anybody gets cancer, right?
Yep. It was very circumspect. Do you have an example, Adrian? Was there one that came to mind?
I immediately thought of something that Scott had mentioned, which is like some fucking asshole like recklessly on a motorcycle just like flying down the freeway like between cars like recklessly.
No.
And then like a mile down the road they're like in a complete wreck and it's just like, what did you expect?
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I guess the ideal is you see them pulled over though.
Right.
A wreck
That
is
would be ideal.
sad.
Yeah, or just them, like they're fine. They walk away from it, but their motorcycle's totaled.
Them standing up,
right.
looking at their smashed bike is
Right.
is
They
the
have,
ideal
they
version.
have a mild concussion,
Yeah.
and so maybe the part of the brain that's like endangers themselves is like turned off. Like that's the ideal situation.
But as you
right?
drive by, they're giving a thumbs up so that you know for sure that they
They're
don't have
okay.
right,
serious,
they
Right.
saw you.
they don't have serious injuries. They're just one thumbs up and one thumbs down
well,
for the
no,
bike.
see, I don't know that I'd be okay with that. I don't know.
I love how specific this is.
I don't
this
want them to
crash.
have a thumbs up. No.
Thumbs up
No.
because they're okay. Thumbs down for the bike. Okay,
no,
got it.
No, I mean if they're walking around, that's fine, but they should look dazed.
If they're walking around,
they should look dazed.
walking around but dazed. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I appreciate
like
everyone as
mild
being
concussion,
so specific.
you know?
Tiny cartoon birds like circling.
Yeah,
above
it's just
them.
a mild concussion. Like it's fine. This is their first concussion, so it's not life.
I want to pass, and I hear a tiny bit of the girlfriend calling and saying, "I told you not to ride that thing." Just real fast, like I told you not. To.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fit Doppler in every episode.
I did date somebody who drove recklessly. Like literally, she would just tell me that last night she went up to 120 miles per hour on the freeway, and it was like, if you ever fucking do that while I'm in the car, I'm gonna.
Right.
Yeah, and also like every time she said that, I was like, you know, you can kill someone, right? Like not just yourself.
No, that's so unattractive.
Yeah, I was like, you know, you can kill somebody else, right? And she's like, yeah. She's like, but I wouldn't do that. And I was like, okay, okay.
Well, at least she wouldn't do that. That's nice.
Yeah, like not on purpose.
I like that all your turnoffs are reasonable.
Cool. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Is that everything about my graduation? I don't know if there's anything else I really have.
Or it was outside for 5 hours. Is that?
It was
What's going
really
on?
hot and in the sun in an outdoor space.
And are you wearing the typical all black,
Yeah.
like enhancing the hotness of the situation?
Yeah, and I saw them standing in lines, and you guys were in direct sun. And you were standing in lines.
Why
Yeah,
do they
I
do that? Give people white robes, please,
Fucked up. Yes.
or reflect those
White robes.
those blankets they give people at the end of marathons. Like make the robes out of that.
I did have something happen that that Lauren and I have talked about before that I do think is funny. So,
You got little butt sex beforehand, or not that?
it's not going to be that.
Okay, not that.
That was not funny.
If I
Lauren. That
got
was
grinder
serious.
fucked at graduation, I would love myself. I would be really proud
I
of
would be
myself.
so
I
proud
would
of
be
you.
really proud of me.
Especially
I'm just
if,
not that
especially
dirty.
if your boyfriend was right there and he's like, "Go for it. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
the porta potty."
He would love it. That would be in my 20s when I was more compulsive, when I was medicating with sex.
Is that a diploma in your pants, or are you just happy to see me?
Yeah, I would be like, I'm graduating today. Suck my balls.
Jesus.
It's
the
Dr. Ari to
That's
you.
the lowest in my mind. That's the lowest form of a hookup. If somebody sucks your balls, like
Oh, I love.
It could be
No,
the
no,
top.
no.
That
No?
could be the top.
Mine,
That
I have
sounds
lots
pretty.
of sensation. We've established.
oh yeah,
Adrian
that's
has,
right. That's right.
Adrian's
right,
dead
right,
below
right.
the waist, but
Only nipple play for Adrian.
Just nothing.
Adrian the eunuch. That's what we call
Good
him.
old Ken Hips over here.
there's a distant dissociative tingling. That's it. No, but Lauren, you've yelled near me a couple of times in the recent past, and I've gone, "Ow, ow!" I'm really upset, and
Yes.
But it was graduation, so it was time to yell.
Yes.
And so leading up to this event, and I'll let you tell the action part of it, but leading up to it, I told my partner, I said, it's a graduation. He said, like, will people make noise? Or it's Cal State East Bay. Will people be rowdy or what have you? And I was like, I don't actually know, but Lauren will be in your encampment and she will yell, and she yells very loud.
I have an extremely loud voice when I want to.
Yeah. And so, and then I got reported back,
By the way,
go
you're
ahead.
not the only person who has told me, "Hey, you probably shouldn't do that around people."
Oh, that makes me feel better.
It happened recently at a hockey game when I was on the bench and I was yelling, and the captain was like, hey. And I was like, I was just trying to be helpful. She's like, it's not helpful and that's that loud.
It's
not helpful.
Really
It's all about,
loud.
it's the volume. It's not what you're yelling. It's the volume.
No, yeah, it's the volume.
Like in Japanese anime, you know how people muster power?
Yeah.
And then there's waves of power around someone, and then there's a fireball of some kind, or like that's the
it's
kind
that
of
loud.
yell that she does. There's waves of energy.
I don't know why my voice gets that loud. It also gets extremely high if I want to. So I was sitting there and I was like, I should to the people, to your boyfriend and your good friend, and I was like, I should yell, right? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. I think Kevin knew already because he was encouraging me like an ass.
And
of
Kevin's
course.
very troll.
Oh, he's so troll.
So he was like, yes, please.
Yes, please. 100%.
If it's a disaster,
what's funny is I didn't.
yes.
What's funny is I didn't know that you guys had talked about it. So and I love this, like looking back. So I warned the person who was directly in front of me, like, I yell really loud and I'm going to yell. And he was
I
like,
was told you consulted with many people around
yes,
you.
several. But I didn't.
That's
There was
thoughtful.
one person who I didn't consult with, and she apparently got mad. I yelled so loud that I kind of almost blacked out. I got really dizzy, and I started getting tunnel vision, and I had to sit down. So I yelled that loud. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if your yell contributes to your own hearing loss.
I agree. I agree.
And so,
Wow.
so she was across an amphitheater, and I thought to myself, I don't know, like, I'm ready. You know, you're emotional. You're going to walk. Other people have like 38 friends because they're on the football team. And you're like, it's time for me to walk. I'm going to hear a little noise. You know, you're just, everyone's checking their ego in their own personal way or whatever. And I was like, okay, it's going to be time for me to walk or whatever. And a yell explodes across the amphitheater that sounds like 12 people. And I later find out it's just Lauren. And that people were hurt.
Yeah, people got hurt.
And then she tells me
emotionally
later,
and
I
physically
hurt myself.
Yeah, no, I hurt myself. I didn't lose my voice, which was surprising, but I did almost black out.
Yeah, it sounds like it was almost concussive.
It sounded like a lot of people, and I think I saw question marks appear over people's heads near me.
You're welcome.
It was good. It was a good like additional chapter to our saga, because you've yelled down the street to get someone's attention near me, and I'll be like, I'm gonna be recovering from that for several minutes now.
Yeah. Wow. What I'm starting to realize is that it's hurtful. Is what I'm starting to realize.
Adrian, have you experienced this? I have never experienced this Lauren's yell that we're talking about.
No.
You were near one of them, but you weren't super near.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
So
weren't in direct, like, because you
Wasn't
were
in the
literally
path?
you weren't
I was
really
so
close.
close.
You weren't that close, but you were directly in front of me.
I see.
Yeah.
You're describing it like Banshee from the X-Men, where it's like radiating
Literally.
out of your mouth.
I
Very that.
I
Like-
think it might actually be something similar. It's so
like
loud.
an X-Men mutation.
I don't know.
I've never heard anyone scream like that. So if you want to claim it's a superpower, I'm ready.
I'm
Right
gonna
on.
claim it.
Was this discovered at a certain point in your life?
That's a good question.
Well, there's on my report cards from a young child. It was like, Lauren's voice is really loud and she shouldn't talk during class. So yes.
That's hurtful. I don't like that. I don't support that as a review. But were they? Do you think you're like it just connects organically to the
I was
yell?
also ADHD, but so I was probably just talking to people, being like, you know, I want to be your best friend. Let's talk about the math.
But you didn't have good volume control.
No, I did. I mean, I don't know how old I was. I was young. This was like first, second grade, third grade. I probably started figuring out I shouldn't talk too loud around 5th grade when I had a really bad teacher who was kind of yelled at me in front of people. But yeah, I routinely got from teachers that I was very loud. And if I was going to talk during class, it had to be a whisper.
When do you think you modulated successfully on the whole?
I would say probably 8th grade, when I started realizing I didn't have to be the biggest person in the room in order to get love and attention.
Aww.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, 8th grade is the time when everyone's figuring out how to be the, like that's what junior high is for. That's the awkward years.
Yeah.
Your pubes are coming in. You punch someone next to you that you actually have a crush on.
Yes. Somebody punches you who has a crush on you.
And you don't know that. You don't get
No,
that. And then they spit on you. And then
yeah. And then you have to go to therapy later. And then you realize that you have like really weird sex kinks.
Right, Adrian? Right, Adrian?
Right.
Whatever. You were in a gang.
Whatever. Gangs of Fremont.
The gang was like, Adrian, we've been meaning to talk to you. We think you're a little too loud.
Oh my God.
You don't moderate your...
I love that.
Scribs.
You're a little too nice.
A volume control conversation in a gang.
It's like an intervention.
You're making the other gang members anxious. You're creating gang anxiety.
They made chamomile tea and sat you down.
Your talking sounds like gunshots. It is very unsettling.
Adrian, we were trying to have a calm gang, and then you're just not... You're not creating the atmosphere we're hoping for.
Shivsy, we have feedback for you. We've gotten together and talked.
Shibsy?
Shivsy.
Shibsy? Is that the new one?
With a V. Shiv.
Oh, Shivsy.
Shivels.
Oh, wait. Are we changing your name from Scribs
to
Shivs?
It's a hypothetical in this. It's a gang member getting a gentle intervention.
Yeah.
But if you want a new name, anytime we can.
Shivsy.
I'll take it. Shivsy.
It sounds a little Yiddish, which I'm on board with.
It does sound kind of Yiddish.
Yeah.
Is there a ceremony?
Do you want a ceremony? I have a hot
of
tub.
new nameage.
We can christen it.
Yeah.
We could just dunk you.
I know someone who can yell really loud at your ceremony if you need.
I'll take it.
That's true.
How the ceremony will happen is I will scream, I'll dunk you, and then you have to, when you come up, you'll hear the screaming still, and you'll know that you're on the other side.
You could scream while he's in the water, and
That's
he'll be
what I
like,
mean.
that was still too loud.
All of the above.
The water displaces. It's like a Moses effect.
There's blood in the water because my eardrums are bleeding.
Yes.
NASA uses Lauren to test that in space no one can hear you scream line to see if it's actually true.
It's not true.
Turns out one person.
Turns out.
People
in Pensacola, Florida heard Lauren from this
from the
satellite.
It
from
decays
the space
around
station.
Mars.
I just one of the moons of Jupiter blows up.
This is how we have contact with intelligent life. They've picked up one of your signals and they've come and they thought it was a distress call from our planet.
Lawrence, the 3-body problem. We got your message. We've decided your species is dangerous. Based entirely on this.
She's displaced the rings of Saturn.
It's fine. I'll be long dead by then.
Kevin loved it. Kevin was like, it hurt people. Kevin.
Apparently it did hurt.
Lauren, is this okay to talk about with you, or is this like...
No, I'm fine with
okay.
it. No, I love that I can scream really loud.
I would feel very...
it feels like a superpower.
Nice.
I'm glad you're in a good place. We've been working on it. It's come up a few times.
Yeah. No. I mean, I try not to hurt people.
I personally would never tell a woman to be more quiet just because, I don't think that's appropriate, but that's just me because I'm...
Ugh.
I'm aware of my privilege.
White knight alert.
I'm aware of my privilege, so I'm trying to moderate my privilege so that I don't act like one of those people.
Doesn't count if you make direct eye contact with me. And
No.
Ugh, I hate that.
I wanted to count more, actually.
That's the smell of the dick don't work.
How dare you?
Sorry, I interrupted you being a good person. Brave.
I was
brave.
I was emphasizing
So
how
brave.
good of a person I am interrupting the conversation.
We had a little bit of a talk too. It got explored that I call too many women a dumb bitch on the pod.
Wait, what?
And now
Really?
that there's no particular woman being named, we can leave it in. That I have a history.
So we're
of
not
needing
talking
to
about
be...
Taylor Swift? Or?
A straight man checked me on calling women dumb bitches.
Checks out.
I did think about trying to bring in my official dumb bitch award so that you could see that I received it and the date on it, and you could see that it was given to me the day I was born. But as a gay man, we greet each other, you dumb bitch, you stupid whore. It's
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And not every woman is cool enough to be a dumb bitch. I wanted to let you know that if you work on it, you might arrive someday and become an honorary dumb bitch.
It's a plateau to reach.
So I'm not going to call anyone a boss. I'm not gonna call him a girl.
Oh,
I'm not gonna call her a girl boss.
Oh, I thought you meant boss, like all straight men calling other straight men boss in the fucking Home Depot.
Wait, does that happen?
Yes.
I believe her. She's a lesbian reporting on the Home Depot.
Hey, boss.
Yes. hey, boss. You know where I can find you know where I can find the protractors or whatever.
Did I get the math store? Hey, boss.
Can I cut this wood to a particular size, boss?
It needs to be an exact circle. So, thanks, boss.
I got a deck project. Yeah, another one.
It's like the least what I've come to realize. It's the least offensive, like, form of nickname. Hey, you know something that I don't know, or I'm talking down to you. One or the other.
Well, they have it in Japan, for example. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense that people work out ways in the dialect to say, like, you're one up.
Right.
You're one. You know what I mean?
Right.
But people say it in a down way too, like in a kind of a petty way, like, oh, hey, boss.
What do you mean?
Hey, boss.
Like sarcastic?
Oh, you got it,
but you don't mean sarcastic,
you got it,
right?
Yeah, like in a sarcastic way, like,
well,
you got it, boss.
Well, you just mean it's jovial but a little dismissive. You don't mean it's like withering.
No, it's
Am I wrong?
It's a little so they'll. I mean, in the same way, like, they'll use it against people sometimes. I've heard that.
I see. That makes sense. Well, that's universal too, right? The big one.
Like, you're a narcissist. I'm calling you out on it. That's kind of it.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got
and the big one everyone knows is "bless your heart" from the South. Like,
Right.
there are ways that you say something polite that is totally rude. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, how did we get on that topic?
Because we were talking about lady terms.
Well, and
you said girl
it makes
boss,
sense
right,
that
right,
Scott
girl
had
boss.
questions because Scott, you can't call people a dumb bitch.
I did not well. No, it won't come off
It
well at all.
won't go well.
You can call gay men dumb bitch, and they would fucking love you.
I'm gonna vote no.
Okay. I don't think that would go well either.
Really?
But I am a big fan of telling him the wrong thing to say. I do that a lot.
Yes, that is true. I have to sometimes parse through your suggestions for which ones are fake.
Scott is a dad. He has a daughter. He can't call women a dumb bitch.
You can't.
He's lifelong. He's blocked from all incel behavior.
Also, I want to make clear, this is not a limitation that I'm constantly worried about because I don't want to either. It's not like I'm stopping myself over and over again.
I love that. It's 2024. You also have to say what you're not struggling with.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Also not struggling to kill a woman.
Me neither.
Me neither.
I mean,
we caught you at a good time.
Yeah, it checks out. Yeah.
for today.
Right now, at the moment.
Yeah, my queer friends, they call me bitch. They'll be like, bitch. I'll be like, friend.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Adrian, have you ever done like an overfamiliar? Have you ever done something where you do, like, reply in an overfamiliar way, and then you're like, I wish I could take that back or something?
No, I haven't. Yeah,
you seem like you'd be good and on top of that.
Yeah.
I did do it once in like 8th grade. I was in an all-black class that I've talked about on this podcast before.
Yeah.
And I had watched way too much Martin and In Living Color, and I said something that I should not have said back to someone. It was playful and friendly, and I was such a dork that the person was like, I'm almost offended by that. And then they were like, forget it.
Near miss.
It was I was just so ineffectual. I think it was probably partly because they were like, yeah, you're a minority too. Like you're sort of like look at you. Like you've got long blonde hair.
The hatred instantly withered into pity.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, I was like 120 pounds and long blonde hair in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, well, you're gay. That's worse. They were just like, never mind.
You were like a deflated Kurt Cobain.
Yes.
You're in there with, you're like, guys like on Martin, and they're like, no.
Well, and also nobody was busy taking offense back then, so they were just like, yeah, whatever.
That's fucking gay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I do feel more comfortable around that. Like,
you can keep that in. I was quoting.
I do feel more comfortable around that kind of like working class, like trade barbs kind of attitude. Like,
me too.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really want to be in the higher education realm of manners. It gets old. But I have to. I'm going to be ultra. Now that I'm a therapist, I'm going to be like.
You're gonna have to be Mr. Words, like
Mr.
careful with your
Filter.
words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Filter, Dr. Filter.
Be authentic and be correct. I mean, when this whole thing started, with the on October 7th, clients, because my name is a Jewish name. One of my clients who's very nice was like, "So I've been protesting," and they were so nice that they were like, "I've been protesting what Israel's doing." And they just kind of looked at me and they were like, "Is that okay?" And I was like, "It's fine. It's fine." I was like, "I'm not going to get political. You can get as political as you want. You could process whatever you want. I'm not going to speak on this because it's your therapy."
Yeah.
But they were like, I think they were like, "Your name's Ari. I don't know if you have family there." I mean, and like in fairness, you know what I mean? Like in our supervision, we had someone from Israel who literally, when all this happened, went to Israel for their honeymoon.
Wow.
And I know.
And was in Israel when it happened?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And somebody in the space was like, "I wonder what she's thinking about." And I was like, I would not put that on her to like come here and tell us what she's thinking about. Like, he was sort of like, "I wish we could hear from her." And I was like, that would not be fair. Like, I hope she's okay and processing however she needs to. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a little tokeny.
I have a therapy.
Yeah, he would do inappropriate stuff like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a therapy question for you.
Yeah, sure.
If you're listening to someone talk and you like can identify a big thing that they're missing or whatever, like you go, I connected it, I see what the problem is or whatever. Is it your place to like figure out how to say that to them, or do you have to then try to figure out how to make them like figure it out themselves and realize it? Like, I don't know if that question makes sense.
Like
but
leading.
Do you get to say, "I know what it is, it's this,"
them?
or do you go, "What do you think? Do you think like, do you have to get them to get there?"
Yeah, I think you're probably guessing it's better if they do it. I think that's true. Like if you want to have somebody, what's interesting is you learn that people have more or less, depending on who they are, excitement to understand the physics of their life that define their patterns. And so you're also trying to create an excitement about it. And sometimes in a funny way that can be prescriptive, because you can need to tell someone like, if you don't care more about this thing that creates a cycle a lot, you're just going to be in this cycle forever. Like, and because a lot of times someone will be so familiar with it that they'll be like, that's life. And so it's not even just what you're saying about wanting to create insight. You'll also want to create the idea that they could do something totally different.
Gotcha.
And people that doesn't occur to people. Like a lot of times people will experience something and be like, "Oh, you mean existence?" And that's true about everything that we've talked about, that term hypocognition, where something's not consciously available.
Yeah.
That's true in so many places. Like when my sister, I'm trying to think if this is okay for the pod. Yeah, I think it is. When my sister did medical work overseas, they would also introduce other elements of community care. And one of the elements that they would sometimes introduce is the idea of domestic violence, because people would respond to it and say, "Oh, you mean marriage?"
Oh. Yeah.
So they're so tied together that.
Yeah, they would be
concept.
like, "Oh, you mean men and women?"
Mm.
And so you have to create the idea. Also, you have to nurture the idea that something else is possible. And that's enough friction for the person too, which is kind of, it's good in a way just to be a therapist and know, like, you can't, it's various layers of understanding that you're not there to tell someone what to do, I guess, is like the topic.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
You're nurturing something, and a person may not bring that seed to flower. They might be like, no. Like,
and do you feel like that's a failure for you, or do you just write that you're just like, well, they're not ready for it, or how much do you take that on professionally, I guess?
It's hard. I like, the biggest thing that happened to me at the end of this graduation, because I wrapped up with a bunch of people, was I had this early phase of working with people that was super easy on me and super candy land, which was they like me. So I had all these clients who like working with me and are happy they're working with me. And when it was time to wrap up with them, I started to ask myself internally, how much have you changed the fundamental problems that they came in with? And that question hurt me and weighed heavily on me much more and much differently than, do they like me and like working with me? Once I had to, like, install something, lay a foundation, and come back and say, did you get it? Like, did it land for you? I got very emotional. I'm still very emotional talking about it, because there are people that I wanted to have, and you know, you just get told over and over again, it's okay to, like, plant seeds. They will flower on a different timeline that you do not control.
Yeah.
And which was totally true in my therapy, was there was some kind of developmental thing, and it didn't necessarily happen when I wanted it to, or when the therapist wanted it to. It just does not work that way.
Absolutely. I had a therapist like years ago who my sister and I both had the same therapist, and we still quote him. And even though the things that he said then weren't necessarily resonating with me, years later I'm like,
They
oh
did.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're making an impact.
Thank you. Yeah. A lot of this stuff, it's hard to, because you want to just, like, ingest the aphorism. You want to just, like, ingest the wisdom of it, but it just accumulates in small bits or in waves.
And definitely sometimes on the aspect of not being frustrated as a therapist, there have been sometimes when I've been in therapy and a therapist says something to me and I'm like, no. And I resist it, because I'm like, well, if I do that, then that means the therapist was right. And then later on, when I'm not attached to that like right or wrong feeling, I'm like, oh yeah, I could do that now, and that was good advice or whatever. So some stuff has just a longer fuse before it lights, you know. And you don't know what that is. Just I'm saying from the other end.
Yeah, totally. Like, that's 100% true that, like, if you are prescriptive, one of the things that can happen is the client, and this is true, I think, in all of our, like, loved one relationships where we all get hurt, is, like, if you seek to progress something that someone doesn't consent to, they get a sense of agency and a sense of satisfaction throwing you off them. And so it's a super, like, bad, it's like the opposite of Aikido. And people fall into this the most with depression, where someone will be like, oh, depression, that's like sadness, I want to cheer that person up. And so they'll go try to cheer the person up, and then the depressed person's perspective is like, that did not do anything for me, that did not help me.
Nope.
And now you're standing here staring at me expecting me to feel better, and I don't. And so you create a perverse satisfaction for the person with depression to disappoint you and get rid of you. And so you can create all these kind of, like, moments where it's just like, sorry, but the best thing for me now is to, like, ruin your hopes so that I don't have to look at you anymore with your expectant bullshit.
Yeah. That reminds me of when I was talking to somebody and telling them, like, the way that they try to help me when I'm feeling depressed and low isn't necessarily the way that is helpful to me, and it makes me feel a little resentful of them, in that when I'm feeling low and depressed, all I want is somebody to be like, I'm so sorry, that's really shitty, and, like, a hug.
Yeah.
And this person routinely tries to fix it. like be like, oh, did you take a walk today? Oh, did you go for take a shower today? Yeah, like did you are you sleeping enough? All this stuff, and I'm like, I don't like I know that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm 40 something years old. I am well aware that taking a walk or taking a shower or whatever will help me. I'm complaining to you because I thought this was safe.
Yeah, like experiencing somebody giving advice as a way of creating distance for themselves is very uncomfortable, I think. And then in addition, it's like not what we necessarily want. And
it was a good conversation. It was really enlightening conversation we had. It was good. I mean,
I think most of us have a lot of these memories with our family, with some like people in our family, just parents having like a pull yourself up by your bootstraps reaction to everything. Like if they don't know how to sit in it with you kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a good question. Yeah.
Adrian, do you have any questions for Ari now that he's a therapist?
Adrian was almost a therapist.
Oh, he was.
And then he became a gang member.
When you were 13.
It just keeps calling
Adrian,
me.
you would be
calling me back.
You would be a good therapist. Obviously.
You would be an
Adrian,
excellent therapist.
Oh my God!
I know it's oppressive.
Sorry,
Jesus
I hate that. Sorry,
Christ.
terrible.
Help me, Adrian.
He's like, if I have to help one more motherfucker.
That part.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should be a therapist. I just was saying you would give good therapy energy. But.
Yes, I know. I hear it all the fucking time.
Oh, sorry. You'd be a terrible therapist. I hate you. Never mind. Does that help?
Your empathy is just non-existent.
No, I'm just fucking around.
In fairness, you like me, you would have to figure out the things that make you feel trapped about helping people for a living, and I think as I was sharing, they are substantial.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, I totally get it. Yeah. I mean, I've been in it for 6 years now, consistently. Yeah, and I've reaped the benefits of it as well. And so whenever a friend of mine is deciding to pursue a career in that field, I commend them. You know, I think you're doing some of the most important work out there that needs to be done, you know, because I think our world needs it, you know, and I think our world will continue to get better with people like you doing this kind of work.
You really think that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Making over here, making Ari cry.
I'm okay.
Okay.
Thank you. That feels really good.
So you did almost become a therapist?
I was considering it during the pandemic. It was
really?
one of the career paths that was like, oh, this could be a potential option.
Interesting. That's cool. But, I almost became a therapist too. I had like a moment where I had to decide between going to grad school for like to become a counselor or to become a graphic designer, and I chose the graphic design route.
Yeah.
Wow.
Probably healthier.
I think
for
you
me.
would be good at it too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I never once thought of being a therapist, so that's probably the reason for that.
Crack a book, Scott.
Do you have some other dream jobs that you do think about?
What like historically, or do you mean currently?
Like across your lifespan? It'd be
When
fun to hear.
My first thing was I wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to write and make comic books,
that's right.
big time.
Pod listeners don't know that Scott is a lovely illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
From high school through college, like that. I went to college on an art scholarship for illustration, and that's why I have paid through school and stuff, and was an art major for 3 years, and then switched out. But I very fully intended to try to be like a professional comic book artist, writer, like doing that thing. And I was in those circles and working with those people, and like made a portfolio and went up to get portfolio reviews and that sort of stuff when I was like 22, 24. So
you're a lovely artist.
Thank you.
It's a shame it's such a hard industry. But
it is a really hard
artist.
industry, and I kind of got disillusioned when I went to my first big convention, and it was like I walked in to Wizard World Chicago in like 2002, and it was just wall-to-wall people and tons of vendors and artists and writers and stuff with tables and people lined up, and I don't like big crowds anyway, and so I was very uncomfortable in the convention atmosphere. And then looking at some of the top artists in their field and their successful thing and what they do to also supplement their income is go to these shows and stand behind a table and meet and greet fans and sign things all day, which is great, but it is so opposite of like what makes me comfortable that I felt like I got really turned off from it then. And I also just knew professional artists and professional writers and like found out more about the business and how hard it was even for the people at the top of the business to make a good living or make a consistent career. And I didn't have the chops for it. I think I started drawing, and comic book art is really hard. I like drawing people. I like drawing like heroes and stuff, but for comics you got to draw everything. You got to be good at cars and buildings and desks and tables and chairs and people with clothing and old people, and you got to be good at everything.
You're a session musician,
and that's a skill, but the honest truth is that the people doing it in comics are probably taking less money for that skill than they could get elsewhere.
Oh, there's so much talent for the So
it's tough, but I love comics as a thing, and I still buy and read them, and that was my main thing. And then when I kind of gave up on that at age like 24, I didn't know what to do. And that's when I moved to Japan, and I thought I was going to be in Japan forever. I figured I'd be a translator or something there forever, and ended up coming back. But those were my plans. And then when I came back to the United States after Japan, I had no idea what to do. So I had to really start over and figure stuff out.
What year was that you came back from Japan?
2009, I came back.
Okay.
Yeah, summer of 2009, and then came out to the Bay Area kind of in the fall.
I remember once being at a Comic-Con. I think it was San Diego Comic-Con, and this animator who had worked in Japan, who was American, he had moved to Japan, and his like first superior when he got to Japan said to him, who do you like to draw? And he said, oh, Lum, flying alien woman who flies around in a leopard bikini. So he's like, I love to draw Lum. And then he said, who do you hate to draw? And he said, oh, Mendo, this like rich kid, this like snobby rich kid from the same show. And so his superior said, great, draw Mendo 100 times. And he was like, you just came here to do work. You don't get to do whatever you want. I want to get that through to you. You don't get to draw Lum for a living. You draw whatever we tell you to. Yeah. So draw Mendo 100 times. And it's you have to be so talented to tread water and get lucky, and it's just too many. It's too many things.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm a very lucky artist.
That's how my illustrator friend makes a living, is doing corporate work.
Yeah.
And he tried to do some dreams, and made $1.50 off them at any given moment. I mean, just nothing, just fucking pennies.
Yeah.
And it's so unfair that there's so many fields where if you do an average job, you can make a living and be safe. But if you don't do an amazing job and catch a break in the arts, then you're trash.
Yep.
I mean, I wised up. I realized that is, there's not a lot of money in comic books, and it's a hard job, and it's hard to get recognized and stuff. So I quickly dropped that and switched right over to podcasting, where those are none of those are the case. No. So it's a completely different set of challenges altogether. But
it's just where do you feel most comfortable selling your soul?
Yeah.
I've always thought of, because I'm a graphic designer, and I never thought of graphic design as an art form until so many people were like, no, this is art. You're doing art. And I'm like, I'm not.
Do you live your life feeling like it is an art form now?
Not really.
You don't? Okay.
No, I still think of it as a puzzle. That's what I think of it as. It feels like a puzzle to me. It's always felt like a puzzle to me. And I like solving puzzles, and I'm fine with solving a puzzle that someone else gives me.
You feel more like if you were fixing a car, like you have a nice riddle, some work to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because there are young people who have gone into graphic design or talked to me about thinking about going into graphic design. And I definitely, and into like the corporate world. And one of the things that I asked, the first thing I ask them is, are you an artist? Do you really like making art? And they're like, if they say yes, I say, you need to remember this is separate. Because it's separate. It's not art.
Making a living, you mean?
Yeah, making a living at being a graphic designer. You're going to step on so many toes if you try and make it art. Now that I'm a creative director, I get to make art a little bit more. I get to do art forms. I got to do the parody. I got to do the parody of Back to the Future that I got to do. I did the 4-part skit parody of Back to the Future, and it was amazing. And I got to write the whole thing, and I got to direct it, and that was my art form. I thought of it, and they let me do it because now I'm the creative director. But until you get into a place of power in graphic design, you have no power almost. And so I always thought of it as a puzzle, and it probably it hasn't been until recently that I've started thinking about it as art, but I still think about it as a puzzle. And people who come at it from an illustrative background or an fine art background, you have to remember that you're going to get your soul crushed if you go into this thinking it's art. It's artistic, but
it doesn't crush your soul, obviously, because you still, I mean, we're surrounded that you find time to do pieces of art, like fine art.
I didn't start doing
yourself.
fine art until I was 30. I didn't start doing fine art until I was about 34 years old.
Was there like a switch that happened and you were like,
yeah, my mom
do
died.
this? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was a fine artist. And the day she passed away, my sister and I were like grappling. It was literally she passed away at 2 a.m. that morning. I went over to my sister's house and I went over to my grandma's house. I slept there, and then I went over to her house in the afternoon, and I was sitting with her in her apartment, and we're like, what do we do? And she was like, do you want to paint? And I was like, that sounds right. Because my mom loved painting and she loved watercolor. Yeah. And so I started painting, and I did watercolor that, like, I still have the 2 first paintings that I did, and I did it, and I was like, this feels right. And so now when I'm sad or when I want to channel some kind of energy that I'm having, I do artwork now, and I do fine art. Yeah.
So I do watercolor too, but it's when you're in the process, it's very meditative. Do you feel like it connects you to your mom while you're like painting, or does that?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally connects because I have so many of her paintbrushes because we went through all of her stuff. And so like my tackle box, most of the paintbrushes, most of the watercolors that I have in there are old watercolors of hers, old paintbrushes of hers. I have her little like Vidal Sassoon spray bottle that she used as like a hairspray. It was like a hairspray, and it's got a little water in it. And so I used that for like spraying water.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. And so like it does connect me to her. And I didn't really start doing fine art until then. I remember going to grad school, and they made me, I had never done a fine art class, and they made me take fine art classes. And I came home and I showed my she's still my best friend. We were living together, and I showed it to her, and she's like, are you fucking kidding me? You never taken fine art classes? And I was like, no. But my mom did art with us growing up forever. So I had an education from birth in art.
Yeah.
I just never got a formal one. So yeah.
That is so cool.
But I feel like art for me was always attached to trauma because my mom and my relationship was so traumatic. And I wonder if it wasn't the day she passed away that I could then have a good relationship with art.
It's funny that Scott, you had mentioned that idea of like somebody prescriptive, somebody who feels kind of oppressive leaving the space, and then you can accept something or like go through a door. I wonder if something like that happened for you. And also just a moment that was emotional, so it also infused the art making practice with something beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my sister will say that our mom was there, like if you believe in spirits and stuff like that, like our mom's spirit was there and like painting through me. She's like, your artwork looked just like mom's that day.
So. Did your sister continue painting, and has she continued?
She painted a lot. Like she does a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah. So she's always done it. Her artwork is very different than mine.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's it like?
It's more patterns, and she paints out of her brain a lot, whereas I tend to copy photos. It feels more meditative for me when I copy of something. It also feels like I can finish a painting in like 3 hours, 2-3 hours when I copy something, I love finishing things. I love to finish a thing. When I paint out of my brain.
Are you saying she paints in a more open-ended way when she paints?
Yeah.
What do you think she gets out of it? What does she say?
I think it's also an energy release for her, but I think she puts a lot of pressure on herself for it to be good.
Do you do that?
I put a lot of pressure on myself for it to be right, which is very much coming at it from a graphic design, I think, brain. Yeah. Like for it to communicate what I wanted it to communicate, which is totally a graphic design brain.
Totally.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you guys do you do like fine art and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. I started doing it long time ago. But I like do it in like spurts, you know? A really interesting thing was observing my mom do fine art for the first time.
Ooh.
When we were in Italy.
Yeah.
I took us to a paint and sip.
Just recently on this recent trip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, last year. And it was very fascinating to see how intensely my mom like beats herself up over it. I was like, what is going on over there?
How did that manifest? Like she would look at it sternly?
Yeah. She would just be like so unhappy with it. And I was like, we have like an hour to do this. Like this is just supposed to be relaxing.
She's like, it's not fucking relaxing, Adrian. Why'd you bring me here? Now I need a goddamn Aperol Spritz.
Do you think she's at her own kind of peace with her tormented process? Like, do you think she would want it to change? Or do you think she's like, no, this is how you make art?
Yeah, I think she's just like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to do this, you know. I'll color.
So she's left with a sense that she shouldn't do it very often from how stressful it is.
I mean, it was great.
Oh,
like,
I'm sure.
Like I showed it to a friend, and my friend was like, "Can I have that? I'll put it up in my house."
Yeah.
and she was like glad she would gladly give it away. But it was just interesting to see my mom have a relationship with art in that way, that she could be like so overly judgmental.
Yeah.
Because she can be in just everyday life.
Yeah.
You know, but to see her criticize her own work was very interesting because I had never seen her do that before.
What's your process like? Do you find you have a different process with different mediums?
Yeah.
And is there anyone in particular that is like the most, I guess, like self-critical?
Writing. Yeah, I think I definitely am trying to leave my perfectionist brain behind the more that I write now, where I'm just kind of like letting go, you know, and just like letting it be whatever it wants to be. And then going back and doing the more rigorous in-depth work, you know, and that's kind of been my process recently where it's just like, fucking let it go. Like, who fucking cares? Just like let it be shit.
Yeah.
Like, and say it. Like, say it. Say this is shit. Yeah, it's gonna be shit, and that's how it has to be. That's the process.
I have such a hard time with that too.
Right?
Such a hard time with that.
Yeah, it's such a process.
Yeah.
Especially when it's something you're creating that's coming from you, because then people are, in a way, you feel like you're being judged through your work, you know? And if somebody were to see that, you know.
Well, and things you would never say to someone else about something that they've made, you will definitely say to yourself about
I would
something
say
you've
something
made.
To everybody about what they made.
Sorry, I spoke too soon.
Sorry, I fell hard on that one. Go ahead. Pray continue.
Well, I'll just say
you have told me how horrible my paintings are.
I have not.
I know you haven't.
Was it like right after you yelled? Like he just turns around?
Your paintings are terrible.
Fires back at you.
The painting of the bird you made that one time is horrible.
That's so funny.
You hurt me, I hurt you back.
Sorry, I just had some pent up energy from teaching writing classes that came out in an explosion.
You have taught all of us in a writing class before.
That's true.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
of us.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ari, you also do fine art, right? Do you play around with drawing?
I don't do fine art.
Not at all?
No, I don't.
You draw sometimes. You draw
sketch.
anime shit.
Yes.
You sketch.
I have
You
seen.
sketch anime.
Laura nailed it. I sometimes occasionally am bored and I draw anime shit.
That's what I'm talking
And
about.
so that's not fine art.
That is
but
100%
I've had some-
fine art.
I've had some lovely. It's not, but I've
It is.
had some lovely creative experiences in college. I took an art class and they got me to do some contour drawings and some still life, and I got incredibly high off of the experience. Like, just I still remember doing a charcoal drawing of Dolly Parton from like a magazine cover.
Yes.
And I was just like, whatever, I'm going to draw this thing. And it went on for hours and hours working on it. And at one point, because I was listening to records the whole time, I just started dancing around the house, and I was so high. I was so high from the part of the brain that had turned on, that was at peace, like judging distances and making improvements. And
It's fun.
That flow state is lovely. And I remember going into that state, drawing this like still life of a contour drawing of a grapes on a rotary phone.
Oh.
And I can still see the rotary phone with the grapes on it in my mind's eye very clearly. And I got very high. I was so just high on life. It was lovely.
Yeah, I feel that way when I paint.
And you see something ineffable come out of you. And then they would line up all the art, and you would just see how everybody drew the pliers or whatever that everyone had drawn. And you're just like, oh, we all saw the pliers a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
I love that shit. I guess it's like a kind of a therapist
It is.
thing to say, but
It
like
is.
I do delight in that shit. And then you see that one thing about how you saw it that you're into, that you vibe on, and you're like, yeah, that's that shit I grind on in my mind.
Yeah.
And it's just like how you drew the pliers. So it's like a funny thing to see.
Yeah.
Vision.
I mean, that's why, like, when you go to a museum and you see people painting very similar things but in very different ways, it's so cool. I love like art installations like that, where they're like, this is a flowers installation, and it's just all these different artists drawing flowers from different perspectives and in different styles and all that good stuff. Or even going to like I loved going. I've gone a couple times to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, and seeing how his paintings are so different when he was young. It was so interesting. I mean, but you can see how they informed what he became later, and it's super impressionistic. But like it, just the variability of how the brain changes over the years and how it perceives things differently, and then how it interprets things differently, and how it puts things differently out into the world. It's so fascinating.
Question for you: did you get to see the potato eaters?
Yes.
What?
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
How did it?
It's so dark and cool.
Yeah.
It's the dark one, right? With the several like the like impoverished people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a cool. I love that era of Van Gogh's paintings, like the skull also that he did.
Yeah.
I love that era of his paintings. He's so young in it, and he just sees the way he sees the world is so dark.
I think Van Gogh is also just going to the museum is like, I was left with a sense of like, oh, you just get the wrong idea from seeing the commercial print version of Van Gogh, where it just feels like so corporate.
Yeah.
And then when you go and you see like the Postman in person, you just are like, oh,
just
he's a genius.
Starry
This
Night
is
in
great.
person.
Totally.
It's
like,
amazing.
It's I almost was sort of like, oh, they're just bad as prints.
Yes.
Like I don't ever want to see these. I was like, I always thought these were stupid and annoying. And now I'm like, oh, you just need to see the actual paintings.
Yeah. He's the prime example for an artist where like the painting and the poster are so different.
Yeah,
like, you think you've seen the painting looking at the poster, and you have not at all.
100%.
It's so different.
Or even
Yeah.
like Picasso, when you
Yep.
see his paintings in person, a lot of them are massive.
Mhm.
And that's oh my God, like David Close, is that the guy who
Yeah.
Chuck Close.
Chuck Close,
Yeah.
where he does the paintings of the faces.
Tiny
Mhm.
circles. Yeah.
And they're like tiny circles or whatever they were, like that particular thing, and they're very like I love impressionistic stuff, but like they're massive, like the size of a wall, and it's so cool. And you
Yeah.
could never like a print of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some of Matisse's work at the New York, the Museum of Modern Art in New York. That was it was like that. It was like 3 huge wall panels side by side. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
So I've had a few relationships where the person expresses to me that they don't know how to go to a museum. Because I grew up going to museums with my mom. She was an elementary school art teacher. And we did that all the time. So I felt like very comfortable going to museums, looking at art and kind of engaging with it that way. But I've had people who just did not do that. And they feel like we've gone to museums together, and they express apprehension because they're like, I don't feel like I'm going to do it right. I feel like I'm not having the right thoughts or thinking the right things or saying the right, they feel like there's a right way to do it. And I enter into it where I'm like, no, it's a conversation. You look at the thing. If you have a response, you talk about it. If you don't, you don't. And you don't feel like you have to do anything. It's just really,
For the love of God, please.
yeah. But I've just kind of like,
Relax.
I've had multiple people had to kind of like talk them down from their idea of what they should be in order to go to a museum and engage with art. And I'm
Well,
like, you don't.
I mean, I think I have a differing view on that. I think that if you go into a museum and you look at a painting or a piece of artwork and you don't get it, you're fucking stupid.
I mean, yeah.
Sorry.
I mean,
I'm just kidding. I was kidding.
I mean, I wonder what a narcissist
What?
feels.
Get them the fuck out of this museum now.
Cut out that he's kidding.
Yeah, he's
Don't
not
let
kidding.
him backtrack.
He's not kidding.
It's real. Real talk.
Everybody who doesn't like art can die in a hellfire.
History of pod starts
Quote from
now.
Adrian.
Adrian is a negative person. Reboot the pod. Season 2 starts here.
You can't fucking lay down.
Drag her. Also, whenever anyone is painting things, there's always one Trish who is in business school. She goes to Toastmasters. She's doing this to see if it expands her, and it doesn't. Trish, your work sucks. I hate it.
Yeah. Nobody
You
cares.
should.
Nobody cares about the half glass of wine that you painted while you were already drunk.
You don't have a point of view.
Yeah.
Go eat at P.F. Chang's, you bitch.
Oh, P.F. Chang's is the epitome. That's great. Good job.
Nice ball.
Yeah.
Go work at JCPenney World Headquarters, you bitch.
Yeah.
You stupid bitch. Sorry, like Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Go shop at Urban Outfitters and buy the Native American T-shirt.
Get some tourmaline jewelry. Get some chunky tourmaline. Okay.
Tourmaline.
Uh,
Such a rare stone.
imbued with so much. There's so much energy in every chunky tourmaline bracelet that I have. Okay.
Rose quartz will heal her.
Rose quartz. A little rose quartz.
Just a little bit of rose quartz.
If I have a daughter, I'm naming her Rose Quartz.
Just to troll her
I
her
love
entire life.
I love that name.
That's great.
I'm naming my child Demi Precious Metals. This is my daughter Diamondique. My son Moissanite.
Oh no.
Moist.
Oh, no. Poor Moissanite.
That's painful.
This is my son Labradorite.
Oh, shit.
Is that a thing?
Labradorite's a real thing.
Is it named after Labradors?
It's
I'm naming my son Labradoodleite.
Labradorite is it's in a lot of granite, and it's got a thing called labradorescence. It's
That's
it's
a
like
good name for
like,
a son. Granite.
It's like
my
opalescence.
son Granite.
It's like opalescence. Have you ever seen like cars painted like oil slick?
Yeah,
oil
yeah,
slicks.
yeah.
That's what labradorescence is. It looks like an oil slick.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's really cool. I
Work.
love Labradorite's one of my favorite stones.
Labradorescence.
As my son, we call him Oil Slick for short. Just
Herbal labradorescences. Okay.
Did you ever go to a museum and feel like an obligation to connect with every piece of art?
Oh, an obligation. Well, yeah. I mean, I try to, and then I'm like, I hate you. I mean, the conversation is had, and then
Right.
I'm like, I don't like you. But that's another thing that makes people nervous is to decide what they like and what they don't.
Right.
Yeah, like everything Scott's mentioning, right? Like it's just a human experience to be like, oh, I have to decide what I feel about art, and I'm one of those people who's happy to go ahead and do that, like to just
Yeah.
trust my instincts
Yeah.
because they come naturally. But I recognize that that's just not how everybody feels.
Right. Right.
They're like, I need help. Tell me what to think.
Yeah.
What do you feel when you look at art, like fine art in a museum?
That's a good question. I wouldn't know how to guess how your process goes about what you like.
Yeah. I mean, it all depends on the piece that I'm looking at, you know? Like what is it making me feel?
Yeah.
Or what is it making me think about? What does it remind me of? And but then also curious about what the artist's intention was, obviously. But happy to also draw my own conclusion, but also happy to like bypass stuff that just doesn't like appeal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't need to see another sunset. But then there's this other sunset, and you're like, oh shit, that's a sunset.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's the way of things.
I really appreciate good pigment. I go to there was this one. God, was it in the Louvre? I don't remember what. I think it might have been in the Louvre. I think it was in the Louvre. There was this painting, and I took a picture of it, and I can't remember what it was or who painted it, but it was this sunset. It was almost nighttime, and the sunset was so pink and so orange, and I had never seen any other paintings from that era with those pigments of color, and I was like, is this the first fucking time anybody's ever used this pink and orange in a painting?
Was it Flemish?
I don't remember. I cannot remember what it was, but it was nuts. It was like fluorescent pink, and I'd never seen that pigment in artwork.
You fell in love.
Yeah, I fell in love. Yeah, it's like when somebody uses like true cobalt blue, or like just those really really strong pigments, that I don't see very often, or when paintings are so black. Like those are some of my favorite paintings is super dark paintings where you can barely make out what's happening. But then if you look closer and the longer and closer you look, the more you see, and it's just like, holy shit. How did this person paint this?
I don't think I've seen a painting like that. It's nice whenever something can make you look at it for a good amount of time and you feel so lost in it. I was going to talk about how spooked I got. We had like an incident that I'm not planning on going into detail, but we had an incident following the last episode of our show, and we didn't process it a lot with you, Adrian. Like you were staying your respectful distance from like group drama, which is healthy.
I kind of had to.
Did you feel like you did, or like what was that like for you? I had two topics that I wanted to bring to the pod. One of them was like boundaries. It just seemed like that was like on a lot of people's minds this past month. And then the other one was like, like fear of being publicly creative, like fear of being creative or like being hard on yourself. And I did wonder what it was like for you when you had that classic bait of like something's going on. Do you have a decision you made way beforehand, not even just with us, but with everybody in your life, to let them have a harder time looping you into BS? Yes. Is that a nod? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just because like I've always been looped into BS like throughout my whole life.
When did it start that you had an effective messaging to not loop you in?
To not get looped in?
Yeah. Like when did I feel like we got the memo a long time ago, which is really nice.
Yeah.
When did you start having that message? I've changed the messaging of who I am.
Yeah.
And I like that topic too. That's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
like I lead with my vulnerability a lot more in my life, and when I was young I did not.
Yeah.
And it hurt me a lot that I didn't. Like it got people to use me up.
Yeah.
And so I think of this as like a way to not get used up and strung out. Do you think of it the same way?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great question, and I appreciate it, because like I think probably over the last maybe 6 or 7 years is when I've started to implement like some kind of a boundary where like a relative or like my mom or dad or somebody will be wanting to share something with me, and I'm like, maybe don't share that with me. I prefer not to know. I don't think it's good for me.
Yeah.
I feel like this is kind of unloading on me
Yeah.
because you don't want to carry it on your own, and I don't want to
Nice
be the
people
person.
aren't supposed to say that.
Yeah.
Did it start out being
time for trauma dump?
Did it start out being hard to do? Did you make a really big decision in your life that was clear to you consciously? Like, how did it get initiated that you started to be like that?
Well, I think it came through therapy. I think it came through like hearing what a healthy dynamic sounds like, and then also like that I don't need to be the person that everybody unloads onto, because I feel like I have been that receptacle, that emotional receptacle since I was a very young child, particularly to my mom, but also to my dad as well. And then obviously that transfers into other relationships in your life, other family members or even like friendship dynamics. And then, at a certain point, 6 years ago was when like I started to reflect on that. And it's like, all right, I guess I don't need to be that person to everybody. That's not my responsibility. I don't need to carry everybody's bullshit. I don't need to be everybody's lockbox,
Yeah.
I think it's such an interesting topic because one thing I think that's powerful is to think of like, how do you have a good week? Like what made your week hard? What is it that you did, that people did, that made your week not what it could have been? And one of those things can be like, everybody dumped on me all week. And I think especially like people pleasers and nice, considerate people, I started out like, oh, everything hard that happened, tell me immediately.
Yeah.
And and the another weird thing about all this stuff that comes up is challenging people to tell you how much this matters tomorrow fucks with people, but like in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's another thing that is like built into being a therapist that I love, which is like, you had to go a whole week deciding what to talk to me about, because you can't just fucking call me whenever you want. I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you at our appointment. And if you can't handle that, sit and spin. Like, because that's what really everybody in your life wants from you, is like, and it's such an interesting thing, because Lauren, you and I were talking about interaction you had, where it would have been better if the person challenged themselves to wait to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
There's so many things like that where the question, an effective question would be, will this transform over the next 48 hours? And we have so many loved ones who create so much grief by talking immediately. It's such a thing.
Yeah. I have been challenging myself to be not so reactionary to people when they dump something on me, whether it's something I did or conflict between us, or if it's something that they are going through themselves, to wait to talk to them about it. And I think that for the longest time, because of like my attachment issues, I thought that if I didn't talk about it right away, they were gonna hate me and leave me,
100%.
And so like, I think the more I do it, the more evidence there is that they're not gonna hate me and leave me. And so I can wait, and I can wrap my head around it and come at it from a considerate angle, as opposed to a reactionary angle.
It's so funny because you can just challenge people. It's almost a little bit troll in like a fun way, like to be like, oh, can you tell me about this in like tomorrow? And just like see how much BS like burns off of it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, what was that yesterday that was so urgent? And then they're like, that. Oh, I shit my pants. I'm an idiot. It actually doesn't matter. It's fun. It's funny now.
We're past, yeah.
Yeah, I was screaming about it yesterday. It's funny you didn't talk to me yesterday because I was screaming about it and clawing at everybody within distance. But today it's kind of funny.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I'm glad I missed it, bitch.
It's like when somebody will like message me at work and be like, "Oh, I need this urgently," and
oh, you do?
And maybe
That's
I'm like
good
maybe I'm like in a
information.
different meeting or something or like whatever, and an hour later I could get back to them and they're like, "Never mind, I figured it out." I'm like, "Fuck yes."
Yeah.
I just came in my pants.
Problems that solve themselves.
Best thing I can get a message on at work is the phrase "never mind." Best phrase ever.
But I do really appreciate how you all handled the situation, because I was able to go back in and catch up on what was going on.
Do you feel like you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do really appreciate how you all approached it and handled it and resolved it.
I'm glad somebody does, because none of us do.
Oh, really?
I'm kidding.
No,
yeah.
I think the
I'm
way.
kidding.
Yeah, no, I think the way that we all handled it is the way that we all handled it. We all handled it in a healthy way. Eventually, like we eventually all got to a healthy place. My reaction instantly was like, "Meh, fuck it," right? And then I got to a more empathetic place as I talked about it more with you and through the messages and stuff like that. And so I had a different knee-jerk reaction.
I had such a hard time. I mean, I'm open to talking about it. I
Do we want to talk about, because we're talking about it in such like a vague,
No.
vague
we can
way.
Also stop a recording and have an actual conversation and then continue, or
That's
have
true.
that conversation after this or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be on.
Do you have a
also cut it
preference,
out.
Scott? Yeah,
I could also
because
cut
we
it
could
out. That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
That's fine.
Well, it's funny because part of the email that I did get was, why don't you guys talk about it on the next episode and make it a learning experience?
Oh, he did.
Yeah, so I mean, it's also like, I'm not planning on doing that. I actually thought it would be interesting to talk about, but I don't mind talking about it and cutting it out. I don't know.
I don't really have a strong desire to talk about it. I just think that us not. I mean, can we give a small synopsis that's innocuous to the listeners so that they understand what we're talking about?
Yeah. So I'm sort of
here. We had something in the last episode that was published, and then later on we decided to cut it out.
Or 2 episodes ago.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes, 2
episodes ago.
And so there was a back and forth about the discussion about, should it be cut out? What do we do? How do we handle this? And then how do we deal with the fallout afterward? Because it happened because somebody expressed hurt feelings about the way that it came out the first time.
Yeah.
Is that innocuous enough?
Yeah, yes. And I have an very old part of me that just is like horrified about making art in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it met up with anybody's normal response to being mortified by hurting somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But I have this old like freak out part of me that has been with me since we started the pod and has relied on the pod not being listened to by anybody and has just been really like happy to be safe. So I'll just give an example, I guess, of like, so the earliest memory I have of theoretically doing anything creative was being taken to a summer camp for theater kids or whatever. And I just...
Because you were gay.
He's gay. Leave him here in a basket.
That was your babysitting.
Leave him here in a lavender basket. They'll take him in.
With a daisy crown.
It's so
Continue.
gay. Well, no, but and so I was supposed to get out of the car and go in, and I just started crying, and I would not stop crying. And so I had made fake detective dramas that were comedies with my friend at home. I had made a parody of a sketch comedy. Let me say that again.
How old were you at this point?
Probably like 9.
Okay.
8 or 9. And I had made a sketch comedy with my friend based on UHF with Weird Al, and like I had made stuff privately, and then we were at this place where I didn't know anybody, and I just sat in the car and I cried and cried and cried. And they just waited until I stopped crying, and then I went in, and I was just sort of like, oh, it's not even like anything. Like they're I don't mean it in a mean way, but I was sort of like, oh, they're not even creative here. It doesn't matter.
you had built it up. What everyone, they build up a situation to much more than it actually is, and then that's more terrifying.
And that's never left me, that I take listening back to my creativity super seriously and get very emotional about it. That has never left me, and I'm just scared of, I don't know what it is. One time I did an experiment with myself. This is not that long ago. I'm old. Like,
you are very old. I agree.
Thank you. I put a GIF of my cat that I had recorded going down the stairs that was cute. I posted it on Reddit. I was terrified. Like, I think there's an aspect of my personality that would really shock people that, like, who know me as like someone who taught sketch comedy in the community. Like, there's just an abject terror part of me, stage fright wise or performance wise, that is ridiculous.
Yeah. What are you? And like, what are you terrified of?
It was triggered by this incident where I offended somebody with that episode 2 episodes ago. It got like caught up in it.
Yeah.
And it just like, I freak out. I still remember looking at that posting, waiting for people to comment on it, of that GIF of my cat, and I was horrified. Like, I was so scared. I was so fucking scared. And it was a good exposure for me, because I was like, wow, I can really see how deep this trigger is. And like how like clearly irrational it is at the same time, which is a good thing to see about a trigger. Like, you can kind of be like, oh, it's very far from how reality functions. But I reacted to it as if I was like, it was my first time in public as a woman or something. Like, I was terrified.
Right. Do you? So I sometimes have this, and I don't know if you feel this way, but the fear of being misunderstood, like the intention behind it. I have a strong fear of my intention being misunderstood, or I have a strong knee-jerk reaction when somebody misunderstands my intention, because I was kind of a weird kid growing up, and I think a lot of people misunderstood my intention, and so I have a little bit of a decent amount of trauma that festers underneath of feeling misunderstood. And do you think that, like, when you put out artwork and your intention is misunderstood, it pings something inside you?
Do you think just after being misunderstood that you will then be devalued, or like, do you think there's another step in that chain when you say that?
I feel like I there was so much negative kickback and feedback when my intention was different. For example, that day when I was walking behind you and I screamed really loud.
Yeah.
And you were like,
it hurt your feelings.
It hurt my feelings, and I was like, and then I had to process it and be like, oh, right, my intention was different. My intention was to get that person's attention, and I was trying to do something that was altruistic, and then I hurt someone, and that hurt me to the core. And when I do that kind of thing, when I am misunderstood, it hurts me to the core.
Yeah.
I could see that you were shaken and that you were doing like the good thing of also like thinking about how it affected me, and that you gave me some space and then you gave yourself some space, and it was like, we'll come back together. It just will take us a minute. Like, I could see that process.
Yeah. But I successfully made your processing about myself. So, narcissist, check that box.
The Labradorescence is gleaming.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
But I mean, I was wondering if that's because if that's something that maybe you feel.
I think it has to be whenever we're triggered that it's all abandonment all the way down. Like that's like the core thing. It's always like the purpose of any shame feeling or whatever is like it just trips that final circuit that is like at the core of being human. But it's funny how I don't think of it that way in the moment. I think everybody has that feeling, almost like, no, there's something else. And I think it's funny that we do that we don't ever. It's like we are about love. We want love, but our reaction is like, no, that's not it. But it's like, no, you want to be loved, dumbass. And it's almost like somebody has to be like, I love you, I worship you, I love you, I adore you. And then you're like, oh, maybe that's it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I just feel like there's some part of us that's like, no, I just want to do a good job. And and then it's like, no, you want love.
Right.
I get it though. It's like you almost want to be like, no, I want like sustainable love or something. I don't know.
Every time I turn in a task at work, I definitely want somebody to be like, this is amazing. I love you. Marry me.
Yeah. It's in there somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, I guess because I'm so performance driven, I have like a thing that's hung up there that I just keep thinking of, which is like, why do I start from scratch every time I do something? That's like just a thing about me, is where I just feel like no matter what I did, I'm always just at the eve of the entire village surrounding me with pitchforks and torches. And I always do everything creatively right at that moment. And I feel like it's always the thing, like everyone's cheering for me, and we're next to a building, and right around the corner of the building everyone has pitchforks and torches, and they're like, by the way, we fucking hate you. And so since the podcast, I felt like you were sturdier than me, Lauren and Scott, that you were sturdier than me. I'm still shaking. And so I drove here today thinking like, I probably have to quit because I'm terrified.
Well, and we also have different capacities with which we felt that thing. Like you have a different like professional capacity than Lauren or I do that might give you a different feeling for it. But
it's true, but it's an extension of it. Like the way that I get treated in my professional capacity is pinging the same raw nerve of terror.
Yeah.
It definitely doesn't help. And I think as creative people, we're definitely talking about how that affects all of us, that it's hard to get regular affection as a creative person. Like you're just like, you're dirt until your breakthrough project or something that is like shitty for everybody. But yeah, like all my professional stuff, like it has hurt me that it's hard to just feel like at the end of the last sketch class I taught, one of my students was like, you were a great teacher. And I had wondered the entire class if I had done her any good.
Yeah.
And so like, because of that tension, when she said that to me, I just like cried, and I was like, oh God, what a relief.
Did that help? Because right before that, I had told you were a terrible teacher. Because I also took that class, and
it was just weird.
I was just having a bad day, Ari. Okay,
that same day I told him that it felt like a waste of time.
Oh no!
So
we felt like you were too big that day. We needed to chop you down.
It was weird when you turned to me and spit in my face. It just kind of shook me a little, and then I got COVID.
I was just kind of
like, thanks,
going with it. I was going with the moment.
You were being spontaneous, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. The time when I tripped you, it was not spontaneous. It was premeditated.
Well, you hissed too. Like when I was on the ground, I was like, I've never heard someone just do that.
Yeah.
Like hiss in public.
It was restrained. I could have yelled, and that would have been real loud. So.
But I do something very similar to what you shared, Adrian. Like I lead a lot more in this phase of my life with my vulnerability, so that people understand me better. And when I was a kid, I was like, no, that's okay, put me like I'll hold the whole family together, that's fine. And it was not fine.
Mm-mm.
And by the time I was 20, I'd accumulated a bunch of friendships with people who didn't take care of me at all.
Yeah.
Ditto.
And that was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And that took me 10 years to recover from, because I was like, oh, people are bad?
Yeah.
Loving people is bad. Got it. And I had my 20s were shit.
Lock it in.
Yeah, it was real. It was like, I was like, oh, bad messages, got them, received.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like some of the theme that we've been exchanging between us just this past couple weeks is like, good relationships are relationships that occur because you've conditioned them to be that way. And that is weird and is not taught.
100%. I mean, my sister and I, we've known each other our entire lives, and we just started going to therapy together, like family therapy with each other. And I don't think we've been so healthy as
awesome.
and
I'm really glad to hear that.
I mean, there's still conflict, obviously.
Yes, of course.
And we're learning about each other in therapy. Like, it was an interesting thing, like just a really interesting tidbit that happened at the end of one of the therapy sessions, which was, she said,
will we cut this out?
No, this is fine. It was a good revelation. It was a good revelation. She said, I didn't realize how different we are. I always thought we were very similar, and we thought very similarly. And I said, and she's like, and she kind of implied that I thought the same way. And then I said, actually, I was like, I didn't realize how similar we are. I always thought that we were extremely different. We were super different.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, it's classic because, like, I was kind of her parent. She's 8 years younger than me, and we grew up in a shitty situation. And so I was definitely like a parent at a young age to her. And so, I mean, that's kind of a classic way that children also think when they finally realize, oh, my parent isn't me. And then the parent realizes, oh, we could be friends now that we're adults. Yeah. And so it was a realization that we had out loud, and it was kind of like a aha moment for both of us, which was really cool.
Yeah, I get that. I had it with my brother because we're 10 years apart.
Yeah.
And we had to make that transition some years ago where I got to be his brother rather than his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So important.
Yeah.
Also not your responsibility.
No, it's not. Well, it's my responsibility to continue to try and foster the relationship.
Sure.
We can both so easily just walk away from it. And I think because of the circumstances we've been put in, where there have been some sicknesses, and our grandmother is very old, and we both have to like rally around her, and our mom was sick and so she passed away, and we had to rally around her, and just life threw us together. Whereas for a long time we were kind of just ignoring each other.
Right.
And so life threw us together, and we're like, oh, we can be a team. And then when we started being a team, it was like, oh shit, we don't really like each other. And then we had to learn to like each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Yeah. Yeah. It was I didn't realize you and your brother were 10 years apart. Younger.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he's 10 years.
No one in between, just 10-year span?
Yeah, just us two. Yeah. Yeah, no, we were able to go through that process. This was probably back in 2012, I want to say. He was going through some stuff. I was struggling in LA. And then we went through some therapy sessions with him, and then as a family. And then it was like in those sessions that there was that realization that, oh, like I've been playing the role of dad to him, and it was actually one of the first times that my dad had ever apologized for anything, actually. Yeah, he was like, I didn't realize that, me not being around put that on you, and that made
he saw it.
Yeah, which was very healing for me, to like have a parent recognize it and acknowledge it, but then also apologize for it.
It's a trip too that we can have such fully formed dynamics in our families, and then key players in them can also not see them. And it just is nice when they have an opportunity to see them and be like, oh, and that went on for 30 years for you.
Yeah.
It's a trip, but I do think, I wish we saw more as people naturally. Like I think it is one of the realizations I've had about just being human is like how much we miss. Like I kind of feel like I've normalized missing a lot and being oblivious. Like I'm like, oh, I really am. I was the stupid bitch all along.
I've had to learn how to miss things more and not pay so much attention because I'm sure there's so much that I did miss, but like I pay so much attention to other people and other people's behavior that I've had to learn how to stop paying attention to other people's behavior and stop policing. I mean, I used to do this. I used to be so bad at policing other people's behavior around me to not make myself feel uncomfortable.
Like, what's an example of what you're talking about?
An example.
You've shared that the kitchen was a good one.
Oh, yeah. That's a great example. Good job. Yeah. So, I had to learn how to cook from a very young age. My mom didn't really cook and my father wasn't really around. And so I had to learn how to cook. And then I moved in with my grandmother. My grandmother hated cooking and continued to tell us how much she hated cooking. And so in order to alleviate some of her pain, I started cooking. And she was so she didn't give me a lot of praise growing up, but she praised me when I was in the kitchen. Great conditioning. Good job, Grandma. Mm-hmm. And so I learned how to cook from a very young age. I got to college. I was one of the few people who knew how to cook. I chose a dorm with a kitchen. It was an apartment dorm. I had a kitchen inside it, and I learned how to cook. I taught people how to cook when I got there. And what I realized once I started teaching people how to cook, is that people started kind of slowly backing away, for lack of a better.
What do you mean?
Because I was so militant about how people had to do things. Sometimes, I don't know if you've noticed, I'll be cooking in the kitchen and it's easier for me to just do everything myself as opposed to having to force my brain to be empathetic in the kitchen. I'm pretty empathetic in a lot of ways, but for some reason in the kitchen, it's a blind spot for me. And I've really, 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 really worked on this to be kinder and more patient in the kitchen as opposed to being kind of militant and making people do things the way I do it. No. Here, this is how you cut this.
Yeah, you tell us we have to address you as yes, chef, whenever we are in the kitchen.
Yes.
Right.
We
can call you Lauren outside, but in the kitchen.
Yeah.
In the kitchen, you have big, what are you doing? No energy.
Yeah. Well, I've talked about this with my therapist and my possessions are very precious to me. And so if someone, I take it extremely difficultly when somebody hurts one of my possessions. And ostensibly the kitchen is my possession, right? So like, it's very difficult for me when somebody hurts the kitchen and disrespects the kitchen. But I've worked on it for many, many years and I'm feeling a lot better at it and letting people cook and people like help me or just, being a backseat and letting other people cook. Although, I'm pretty good at that. Like if I just completely step away, it's easier for me.
Sure.
But it's like super hard for me not to tell somebody this is how you cut a lime because this is a chef taught me how to cut a lime this way.
Right.
And I'm watching somebody else cut a lime and squeeze it and like 75% of the juice isn't coming out because they cut it wrong. And I'm like, if you just cut it this way, you get all the juice. 95% of the juice comes out. And so I have to edit my brain of when it's appropriate to say that and when it's not. And oftentimes now what I do is I ask people if it's okay to give them some tips or constructive criticism, or is it okay?
I noticed you're doing that real shitty. Is there a reason did you want to keep doing that shitty or?
Yeah, I know it still doesn't come off right, but
no,
I liked recently when I was gonna wash a dish and you revealed, which I liked. You revealed to me that you didn't want me to because you pay for the water. And so someone will be, doing your dishes in your sink and they'll use too much water to do them.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, because I get it. Because what you're saying is not even like, fundamentally, like what you're saying is not even like you'll use too much water. You're saying I'll be aware of you using too much water and it will really hurt me.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Exactly that. Yeah. So I become hyper aware of what everybody's doing, especially when they're in my space. And so another one was the bathing suit situation, right? Like I have a hot tub. I have laminate floors on the inside. It's manufactured floors. If water sits on the floors, it causes these weird bubbles. It looks like wood, it's not. And so if the water seeps between them, it causes these bubbles where the wood on the particle board underneath swells. And so essentially what I do is I modify all of that, and I'm just like, hey, can you dry off outside? Can you just dry off outside?
Which is totally healthy and normal.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Instead of being like, hey, you're going to get the floor wet. Can you not get the floor wet? So I just give people like the action item, as opposed to forcing them to do my emotional labor.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds
healthy, yeah.
But it sounds militant when you do it too many times to the people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like one of the things, because I grew up with someone in my family who the hard part for me is I'm very sensitive to like the bolt of energy that goes through you when you become triggered or whatever.
Hypervigilant, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really aware of. Do you remember way back on the pod when we talked about how I went into a grocery once and I said, "What's going on in this grocery?" And someone said Julia Roberts is here. Do you remember that anecdote? And you, yes. Adrian, you guessed that it was Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
I came in the grocery and I was like, "There's a lot of like strange animal excitement in this grocery right now." What is that? Because it's like electricity in here. And there were not even that many people in it. I'm very sensitive to like courses of energy going through people around me. And so when you get a big bolt of energy near me, I have to kind of like let it rattle off in me because I'm like, yeah. It is. I think
it's super pronounced with you and me also because I notice you noticing it. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Correct,
Ari has big tuning fork energy. Like he just picks up those vibes and starts vibrating at whatever's in the air.
Yeah, it's not
it's good.
Like,
it's good for me.
It led me to my profession.
Yeah.
It's very because you don't want to. I mean, it's funny too because you can have the opposite kind of therapist, and I think it can be really nice, like having a therapist that's just figuring it out mostly cognitively. You can have a great therapist like that who doesn't, and I've had to learn, I'm really sensitive. Having clients that send a big jolt of energy through me might not be good for me on a regular basis because it bothers me so much. And then I have kind of a weird, like, I'm like, please don't do it. Like it kind of builds up. Yeah.
That's a really interesting thing. I wonder if you all could answer this question, but like, how do you think that your traumas informed your profession you chose? Or like your past, your childhood experiences?
Well, that might not lead, because you wouldn't, do you feel like you did with the illustration?
Well, I mean, like we were talking about hypervigilance. Like I'm a graphic designer, and you have to be like extremely detail oriented and hypervigilant, and like make sure everything is correct. Especially when I was in print design, because you had to send it off to a printer, and so like I think my extreme detail orientedness really helps me in my profession, and hypervigilance and making sure everything is correct.
I don't think you have to be though. Like, I bet your skills come in huge handy, but the other skills, I think laid backness also comes in handy professionally, even though it's unexpected.
In graphic design?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that I'm laid back does help me in my creativity and in my relationship. I don't know. I'm just leaving a space in case they don't relate to the idea that trauma directly informed their career choice.
I mean, I was good, bad, trauma, whatever. Anyway, your childhood or your quirks, how does that inform the career choice?
Open-ended.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you. Okay. Do you guys understand the question? We talked about it at length.
There's many different angles.
Did you ever think that your childhood experiences informed your career choice?
Kind of, yeah. I was reflecting on this a couple days ago, and I feel like just one of many reasons why I wanted to pursue a career in film and television is that it was one of the few times in my home where our family was together when we were either watching a TV show or we would go to the video store to rent movies together. It was one of the few times when my home was calm and that there were good feelings and good emotions being expressed. A lot of laughter or, a tense situation and like experiencing them through a story. But yeah, it was just like one of the few times in my home where I realized that we felt like a family and everything was calm. And I feel like maybe that's one of the reasons why I want to do that for other people, is take them on a journey and take them through like a uniting experience, a communal experience. Yeah, I don't know. That could just be bullshit.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Hey. Could be bullshit, but it sounds true.
I remember you sharing that before, and it's for some reason I just feel very present like both times you've expressed that about yourself. Like I can tell it's very genuine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a good memory for me. Was like just going to the video store with my family and just like running down the aisles and picking whatever I wanted to watch. And then also just like sitting in the living room, eating dinner with my family and watching something. It was one of the few times when things were very calm. And I knew that like we would be okay for the duration of that movie,
We had some good years as a family in my family. Like we had so much trouble, but like it really is nice. Like even when I just think about things like Star Trek, I picture my family ahead of me, like in front of, like I'm in the back of the room on the couch and they're in the chairs in front of me and they're relaxed. And it's just nice to think about people like being at peace that had so much angst. Like it is nice to think of them like doing well for a little while.
Mm-hmm. That was our family ritual. Every Friday night we would go out and get pizza and then movies and then like clear the stuff off the floor and lay out like a tablecloth on the floor or whatever and just eat and watch a movie. And it was great. I loved growing up like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I do remember I think it was probably before my sister was born. But I remember sitting around and watching television with my mom and my dad. And I distinctly remember watching Roseanne. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sounds so gross, but my mom's passed away and I love this quirk about her. She used to like to pick pimples and she would like ask to pick the pimples on my father's back. Luckily, because she liked to do that, she found like several melanoma moles on my father's back. So
that is the best alibi for a disgusting habit that I've ever heard, and I adore it.
Yeah, she did, and there were like 4 of them that were melanoma moles. But yeah, she taught me from a young age that pimple popping was a good thing.
My ex liked to do it, and I wouldn't let him. And it was like we were on a special vacation once, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give you like 20 minutes.
God, he probably adored you in those moments.
Do you want to talk about Ari's tuning fork moment? He got so happy. Like he was like, oh God. And I was like, that's nice. I hope you enjoyed that. If you ever want me to have sex with you ever again, we're never doing this again. This is not going to become regular because it's so disgusting.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like a super sexy god during that moment?
I wish I had.
Adonis.
To be fair, like I wish I just thought of it as nitpicking. Like picking
it's like little monkeys
ticks out of me or whatever.
Yeah.
I wish I did, but it's so gross.
It's okay. It's very polarizing. This particular subject is extremely polarizing.
Totally.
It's very intimate. That's undeniable. It's a very intimate.
Oh, see, I don't think of it as intimate at
No?
all. I'm just like, this is my fucking hobby.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I mean, Ari
is
letting
my
someone
hobby.
But
hobbies are intimate. I feel like we're gonna find something intimate about it.
No,
if you like it so much.
No, I like it so much, but it has nothing. Oh, well, I guess I meant intimate. Like it has to do with the person. It has nothing to do with the person whose pimples I'm popping.
Oh, you love to do it. Do you get high off of it? Are you like?
Yeah. It's very satisfying. Instant gratification.
I think that's another thing I didn't like about it was I felt like my partner's satisfaction was not about me.
It's not.
And I was like, what am I, like a soft serve machine? Like,
you are.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I don't like dissociative happiness a lot. I don't. I'm like, what's going on? I started looking around a little worried. Yeah, it was weird. I was like, where are we? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Do you pop your own pimples?
I mean, I have some amount of that behavior. I'm not like.
Do you get satisfaction in doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not very much.
Okay. That's fair.
I don't mean that in a rude way.
No,
not very much because there's nothing wrong with me. No, I'm kidding.
Because I'm not a psychopath. It's
no,
fine.
but and everything is true, right? Like for everybody, but it's just on a spectrum. I know that's like such a cliche.
No, everything is true for everybody. That's right.
I know that's such a cliche that everything's on a spectrum or whatever. But like my friend sometimes is in my kitchen and I get frustrated with him because he's not at home in a kitchen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just relax and do nothing.
Yeah.
And it's same with this pimple thing. It's like, yeah, I get it. Like popping pimples is satisfying. I must have popped like thousands and thousands at this point since I've been alive for so long.
Of course. Yeah. But you don't go online and watch pimple popping videos like I do.
Yeah, I think like there's like, I guess like a very available threshold of disgust that comes along with even the ones that are satisfying.
Yeah.
And that's maybe like the thing that differs is like.
I also have a threshold. Like there are certain ones which I will not watch, and they're specific ones. And I don't need to go into graphic detail because I don't want to traumatize anybody who's listening to this. But like there are specific.
We don't.
Yeah,
I'm already remembering videos I've seen, and I don't
this
like.
This is not our
remembering.
YouTube search at all.
No. Yeah, no. There's specific videos, and there's specific like genres of them I will not watch. But yeah. So I have a threshold too, and I understand the gross out ick factor of it.
What am I thinking about? Oh yeah.
Vacant stare. I like it.
I think I've talked about this before, but I do like how zits are kind of like from this particular school of observation that this psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan said.
Shaka Khan?
Shaka Khan.
Is that what you said? Shaka Khan?
Shaka Khan.
I think I love you.
Sorry.
He had this concept called jouissance, which refers to a certain pleasure that's only to be obtained by stepping into the darkness. So there is some part of being human, the idea is that requires a violation of a frontier. There has to be some sort of this kind of pleasurable scouring. I think the example I like to use is actually Star Trek, where the frame of the show is everyone is at peace on Earth and has prosperity, and there's like food synthesizers, and everyone back on Earth is like living with abundance. Therefore, intrinsically, Earth is boring and not worth talking about and is shit. The ship must take off and fly into the darkness and go find problems.
Yeah.
It's this problem-seeking orgasmic satisfaction that is like a part of being human, this pleasurable agitation that is like
I never thought about that. That's so interesting.
Well, drama, right?
Yes.
They're depicting drama, and there's no drama on a utopia.
Correct. And so zits are a perfect example of this because they call to us that there's something to be cleaned. There's something to be expunged once the zit is popped, and we have this fantasy of like smoothing out the skin again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the
You're speaking to me.
The goal is not the smooth skin. It's the pleasure of squeezing out the toxin and going, the toxin is gone. Oh, the juice is gone. The problem is gone. It's this miniature problem solving sort of satisfaction that is at the heart of zit popping.
Mm-hmm.
That's that. I feel like that is all. When you're describing that, I'm like, yeah, that's also like peeing after you have to really pee, or like going to the bathroom situation too. You're just like, I feel great, and it's not it's the process of eliminating or whatever.
Well,
thank God I didn't pee my pants this time.
It is interesting what a agitation is involved in pissing, shitting, and sex, and all of them we like. And Freud's comment was like the first pleasure of the baby is taking a shit and just being like, yeah. But it's interesting that there's a kind of burning that is at the heart of all of them, where you're like kind of gnawing on something, and you're like, sex faces are also these kind of like work faces, like working on a problem faces. Like if you made like a working on a problem face, that would be a sex face. It wouldn't be like there was kind of this was like one of the things in the movie The Opposite of Sex, which I love, where one of the characters was afraid of love. And one of her expressions, her ways of saying that she was kind of afraid of getting closer to anybody was, why can't we just shampoo each other? Why can't we just be nice to each other? Like, why can't I invite someone over, a man over, to give me a nice shampoo? That would be nice. But it was her way of trying to discover that she had the capacity for all of it. But it's not sex, right? Like we don't go into sex saying like, hello, I would like to make you feel nice. No, we have this weird, like, wicked problem-solving frame around sex where it's like, what'd you do? What'd you do? You did this naughty. You made me hard. I got to work on that. I got to, you know what I mean? Like, we have this weird sort of like a problem has come up type of characterization that comes up in sex that we have to then do like our weird, like, gnawing kind of work on. But it's not, sex isn't, again, like, it's not Earth on Star Trek. You're not just like, hello, I would like to give you pleasure because we have abundance. Said no one ever. That's not hot. You know what I mean? That's like in no porno ever. No, a porn is like, oh, I'm here for a doctor's appointment. Why is it slowly going wrong in a way that I like? There's always like a portal to naughtyverse in porn where it's sort of like, I'm just going to the grocery. Why am I fucking someone?
I don't watch a lot of grocery porn, but
it's up next. We already talked about the portal being in the laundry machine, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm stuck in the laundry machine. I hope nobody fucks me.
Just standing there with your dick just jetting through the like cereal aisle to the other side.
That's got to be the number one genre of porn that keeps getting brought up that I've literally never encountered out in the world. Like,
is the laundry machine
the stuck thing? Yeah, because we've referenced it. I've heard other people reference it.
It's from like the first episode of our.
I know. I just don't. I definitely hear it out.
What, glory hole porn?
I don't. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah.
God.
Loser.
Don't want to get too graphic about my watching habits, but no, I don't.
Scott watches I Want to Make You Feel Nice.
Well, I was actually having a hard time
narrated by Kelly Clarkson
with Ari's description of sex, where he's like, it's like a problem, and like figure this. I'm like, what? Maybe I'm just having different sex differently. I don't know.
You're having make the case.
Yeah. What do you mean? I don't understand.
Wait.
I'm excited.
No, I'm just. To me, it's like we're having we want to do a thing together now, and so we're doing it. And it's like
going for a hike. What are you talking about?
Yeah, kind of, I guess. But you're just like, we're doing this together. Like, we're in a collaborative activity right now, and it's like,
that sounds like not sex.
That doesn't sound like sex to me.
What? All right. Well, I'm different. Never mind. I'll cut this out.
No,
I don't like
you're
talking
not
about sex.
cutting this out. This is primo material.
No. I have normal sex like everyone else. Don't worry about it.
I love this, and I need more of it immediately. I need more non-erotic sex explanations.
Oh, boar porn. We're back to boar porn. Full circle.
Adrian, did you feel a bridge building to Scott's explanation of sex?
No.
Yeah. No.
What is wrong with
He
me?
got back together with his hair pulling girl, so he's like, nope. That does not check out.
Nope.
You got to be naughty. So
Yeah.
So does naughtiness make no sense because what you're doing is macrame? Like where does not
This isn't the conversation I was hoping to get.
I love it. I'm here for it.
I just imagine him macrameing his own sex swing before, like for hours before they actually have sex in it.
What is naughty? Like
You tell us.
I don't know.
I was just going to ask you that. Where does
Yeah, what-
naughtiness
yeah,
fit
what is
into the
naughty-
Scott sexual Marvel universe?
I don't know that it like for sex. It's like an activity that is not a surprise for either person usually, and it's like both people are on board. And this is it's not like it's like let's like you feel the vibe going forward, and you're just like, all right, now it's time to like
Describe the vibe.
Yeah, what's the vibe?
like you've had a nice night or whatever, and you've gone out and done stuff, and you're like hanging out, and you're feeling like
To be
hand
clear, we're
holding.
the unhinged people. You're probably whatever you're describing is probably the way that you should
I'm like
feel.
you've enjoyed a
Totally.
person,
Yeah.
and then you're like, we're going to bed together, so now let's have sex, and like I don't know what.
Is
I
it,
love the
I don't know.
sitcom
is it like
soundtrack
yeah?
that I'm hearing for this.
Is it like
And
okay?
at
We
the
went out
end
to
was sex.
we went out to dinner.
Yeah.
We went out to dinner.
Yeah.
We came back to the apartment.
Yeah.
We watched the movie, and you're
Yeah.
just like checklisting in your brain, and then you're like, oh, let's bring out some wine. Okay, you brought out the
Eh.
wine, and then you get a little bit too far into the wine, and then you have sex. Or no, there's not wine.
Probably not, but it's like, but yeah, it's like we're watching a thing, and then sleep is later, and in between those two things, we would both probably like to have sex. So let's do that.
Sex is,
So
is
how
in
does
between.
how does it come up? How does it come up with somebody who maybe you haven't had sex with before? Like they don't understand that you have a checklist.
I don't know. First of all, but I don't think there's like a lot of. I don't like. It's just kind of like if I don't initiate a lot of times like hard. I'm not like, hey, let's initiate sex or whatever. But I like it just seems like a thing that it's like we kind of get to, and then you
Can you put
start
like a little
making
bit of
out.
after you said hard in the recording later?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Cool. I made a dad joke too.
Can you do the hey again?
Hey.
How somebody else initiates sex?
What did I say?
You hey.
Hey.
That was your like how
Oh.
someone else might.
That's how
Yes,
that's how
Adrian.
that's how angry you might
You
initiate
pants
sex.
off now. Get over here.
So when you're in like when you're thinking about having sex with somebody, is there a part in your brain where you're like, there's a risk? This is risky.
What?
I'm gonna engage in something that's risky right now. I'm gonna try something that's risky
risky. What do you mean? Like,
emotionally,
no.
not physically.
not
Like I
usually.
don't care if you hang off of a floor, like a balcony or something. But I mean, like, also, would you hang off of a balcony?
Well, that
No.
checks out that you're saying no because you explained that your first girlfriend situation happened after a relentless course of non-affection. Like you were
Yes.
you were like
Well, so this
you made zero moves,
Right.
Which is hilarious because if I was in that situation with someone, I would feel like I was being kinked so hard. Like if somebody went on like 12 dates with me and didn't touch me politely, I would be like, you are fucking with me so hard.
right.
Like I would be like, I'm gonna
You're
go
giving
home.
people way too much credit.
Like I would just like kneel on a broomstick when I got home and like masturbate on a rosary. Like I would just be like, oh my God, this man is tormenting me.
But no, but I've been conditioned. I can wait a long time and be very patient. So that for good or bad. But
When you did
What-
all that, did you ever go home and feel horny or like did you ever feel pent up?
no, not. I mean, not. No, it
Do
wasn't.
you ever feel pent up?
Sure, but like, what I'm saying is basically all my sex for a very long time has happened within the confines of a long-term relationship, and so
Mhm.
it's not. It doesn't feel risky.
Mm.
That's
In
what I hear is
general,
that it's you.
It feels like
Yeah.
very kind of
Nice.
expected, but not in a bad way. Like in a, it's kind of like we are each other's partner for this activity, and we both obviously enjoy this activity. So it's just a matter of lining up when, making sure we're down to do that.
And if somebody was ever like sitting at their desk and doing their taxes, you would never be like, hey, and then they turn their head and there's a dick in their face.
No, I would.
I love doing that.
That's crazy. But this is also where I should. So up until this point, I've been a married guy on the pod, but a year and a half ago, my marriage sort of stopped, and we're in the process of divorcing. But I've had, I'm like
you're single.
a dating thing in between, and now
I'm currently
single.
You immediately got into another committed relationship.
Pretty quick, and it was
Scott
good. And then
single?
and it was very long.
It's actually a very normal thing for hetero dudes to do. It's super normal. Like super common. Super common thing
and it was
for hetero
great. And
people to do.
It was really good and really helpful for me in a lot of ways, and I'm very happy about what I've got from it. But I think it's not the right time for that right now, and so I'm back to being single. But
ladies,
I don't know
if
a lot of the questions you're asking.
If
I
you
don't
want
know.
some polite ass sex, we got some man for you.
That is true.
Some
clean ass,
sanitized.
Some please and thank you intercourse. That's me, I guess.
Intercourse
Pap goes with WAP.
That's going to be the name.
Polite
that's the name of the episode. Please and thank you intercourse.
Oh no,
that is the name of the
please
episode.
And thank you,
but then I have to leave this in.
I'm into this name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Polite ass penis goes in wet ass pussy.
Yeah.
She's wet because of the politeness.
Use the Scott.
She's being polite. She's being topped by politeness.
Don't other people have things to talk about?
You need to find a girl who has a polite kink.
I just want you to pipe in some sax solos, like 80s sax bridges after some of these, and now Scott's single.
The Baker Street, some
Cinemax music. It's time for your Cinemax After Dark era.
Did I tell you guys about how I went on one date with a woman? We went to the Sharks game, and some 70s music came on. I was like, oh, it's porn music. And she turned to me and she's like, is everything sex with you?
You
then,
did tell me that
story.
Ooh.
That's when I realized that we weren't going to be dating.
Good call. I also got to say, because the person I dated might listen to this, but the reason I stopped being in that relationship wasn't so I could date a bunch of people. It was because I don't have enough time to give to a full relationship right now. And it's not
you're
fair.
trying to heal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've recognized that finally after some really negative stretches of time where it was just that was a problem. And we just came to figuring that that's not a changeable thing for me right now. So
I think it's always good when people just don't feel that there's a accusation
definitely
toward anybody about anything, which is just it's just better when we're all on a journey.
I would love that.
I've had very few big blow up explosive ending situations. I don't know that I can think of any really. It's all been kind of run its course, regretful, but let's part ways on good terms sort of thing.
Why have I had several recently? Jesus Christ. So over it. I just want to go back to being mundanely broken up with. That'd be lovely.
And you have some of those memories and they were nice.
Yeah.
You have a couple.
Yeah, or I break up with. I mean, I guess I've been breaking up with people a lot recently because I realize I'm making bad choices. But
it's just so easy to make bad choices is the problem.
It's so easy to make bad choices when it comes to dating. Oh my God. Right, Adrian? Jesus.
Yeah.
Why are you saying right, Adrian?
Because he had a head nod and we couldn't hear it on the microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a strong nod.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think when, and I will refer to her as bitch face because we have discussed that is the only one I do from. I will not give any more exes any bad names, but that is what she has become. I was in my 20s. It's fine. So she broke up with me and we were
I was dumped by bitch face.
I was a memoir.
That's your memoir. I was dumped by bitch face, and it ends in an exclamation mark, question mark.
I was somewhat surprised, but not too surprised. Like, I wasn't flabbergasted, but I was a little surprised. And immediately, I mean, I was in my 20s and I was an asshole, but like immediately after she said that, I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's probably better. Also, you should go to therapy. And I think you should go to therapy was the last thing I said to her. Yeah.
Probably landed well.
I don't know.
That's a nice,
accepted that innocent suggestion.
No,
high fidelity line.
She was just a walking contradiction constantly. Like she would criticize people getting tattoos all over their bodies all the time, and then the next person she dated, she started doing roller derby and got tattoos everywhere. And she was just the biggest walking contradiction, and she never made sense to me, and so I was glad that she broke it off.
That's wild.
Wild. She was a wild human being.
She was a wild cat. Okay, we got to wrap up.
Yeah.
Let's wish people well or something. How do you want to wrap up, guys?
Wait.
Well, I'm just happy I got away from having to answer
Wait,
What,
Adrian's
Adrian?
like, wait, we have to wish people well?
I'll wait.
Fuck
Why?
that.
I'll always wait when you ask. What?
I wanted to circle back to what Ari was asking me. I also have a fear of this podcast. I think I've had I think since we started a long time ago, I've had a rough time with it. Just like as a form of expression for me, because the thought of somebody like listening to it and like being hurt by something that I've said or anything terrifies me, and I think it prevents me from being consistently myself,
Right.
And I feel like I have just like struggled for some time with it. And yeah, I think I show up and I love hanging out with you guys. It's just I struggle to do it with a microphone.
Yes, I know. This brings up something that we had talked about, which is the public, how public this is or not. The public versus privateness of this pod, because I think I saw my job as a producer to be like, take the thing in, create a thing that can then grow as big as it wants to or doesn't want to, but if it grew to the size of like Joe Rogan, then that would be a successful podcast or whatever. But hearing talk from Ari and now from you, it sounds like maybe the idea of that's not necessarily a positive outcome. You know what I mean? And so we had talked about moving behind something like a Patreon, very minor paywall, just to keep it more secluded. But I've been very honest that I think that this is all, if it's private at all, it's private for a limited amount of time, because I think that in the future, the idea of taking a sample of someone's voice and then back searching the entire internet for anywhere it shows up is going to be very doable. The same way that you can search text and words. You can search voices and videos. And so I think, but I'm getting used to the idea that maybe a boutique podcast that's not meant to be like doing large numbers is what we would rather have or what we would want to do, and that's a shift for my mindset as well. Cause that's just, in my mind, I'm not thinking that, but yeah, I'm totally down for all that. I'm 1,000% want people to feel comfortable and safe. But I feel, thank you for expressing that. I didn't want to bowl over it.
Yeah. No.
Well, I actually feel like maybe we interrupted the emotional part with pragmatics.
Oh,
like I wanted to hear if there was anything, I don't know. I'm just curious, and it doesn't have to stay in, but like, have you listened to a single episode, Adrian?
Mm-hmm.
You did.
I mean, I've listened to like a handful of episodes.
What was that like for you?
It was just, some were enjoyable and others I'm just like, oh, this, hopefully somebody will enjoy this. But
That's interesting.
yeah,
I'm like obsessed with us. I love it. I just think
Yeah, I don't know,
I
it
laugh at
just-
the same parts that I laugh in the episode. I think
Yeah.
the same things that I think in the episode, and it's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I want to stay. I want
But-
to stay
No.
with what you're saying, Adrian.
It's just-
like it sounds like there's some self judgment.
Yeah, it's just like a mode of expression that doesn't click for me. And I don't know why, you know. Like I love hanging out with you guys, but as soon as a microphone is involved, I don't know, there's just like a part of me that shuts down, I think, you know, and is a little bit hard for me to like engage.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think I've struggled with it for a while, and I feel like I keep pulling myself back to it. Like maybe I'll feel different. Maybe something will change, you know, maybe, I don't know. And yeah, I just wanted to express that, you know.
When you experience that process, do you think about discontinuing?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, not discontinuing hanging out with you guys,
Yeah.
just the podcast in
Mhm.
general. But, you know, I still obviously want you guys in my life and want to continue to hang out. And yeah, it's just not
If
with a
you won't
microphone.
advance my career, you're dead to me. But can I?
I'm only friends with
Do you
'cause
feel
I
any
know we're gonna be
obligation, like-
famous.
Like you're trapped and you can't back out because you'd be leaving us in some sort of a lurch or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think a part of me feels that way too. Where I'm just like, oh, I don't want I wouldn't want you guys to discontinue doing this if I bowed out.
Can I ask another question I'm curious about, which is, do you give yourself permission to be hesitant? Like, do you feel self-judgment about having been invited to this and having that experience of yourself, that there's something that you're not sharing? Do you on the whole, I mean, obviously it's not a binary thing, but like,
Yeah.
do you have moments of like, I have permission to be here and work through that? Or do you feel more on the side of like, I should have worked through it already before stepping up to the mic?
Yeah. I don't know, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've just been trying to sort it out, and I personally have a tendency, you know, I've talked about this on the podcast before, where I have a tendency to stay in situations just because I feel an obligation to, and that I should be able to like force my way through it, you know? And I'm trying to get better about like listening to my gut and like listening to what it's telling me to do, you know, or what I should do, and not overstaying my welcome in situations where my body is telling me, hey, you know, I don't know, like why I keep doing this if you're not getting enjoyment out of it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I obviously love like hanging out with you guys and laughing with you guys and joking around, and you know, it's a good feeling. But I don't know why. It's just like when when microphones are involved and the whole podcast thing, it like switches something for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
you
really
know.
vulnerable. We're talking about very vulnerable things
Yeah.
and putting out it into the world for the public to hear.
Right.
Mm.
And also, you're not performing right now. You're talking about a real thing. Like,
Sure.
we're not doing a bit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it hasn't arrived yet at something. It's like it's an in process share.
Mm.
Totally.
When you do stand up, do you feel similar levels of risk, or do you think to yourself like, you do? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I was pretty terrified going into this show. One, because I had never done anything like that before. You know, where I'm doing 10 minutes, I'm billed as the headliner. I have a lot of friends and family there at
Yeah.
the show. And overall, it ended up being a very enjoyable experience. Like, yeah, no, it turned out great. But yeah, you know, going into it, I was a little bit fearful.
Mm.
But yeah, no, it ended up turning out fantastic.
when you say that it's in front of people
Yeah.
what occurs to me is that a big part of the vulnerability that we're talking about is feeling out of control with how you see yourself being remade in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's part of the terror that I have is like, I'm trying to make sure everybody in my life likes me, and I have a lot of arenas where that's worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And when I perform, I'm just sort of opening up a whole other arena where people can suddenly see what I do and go, oh, I didn't really think about it, but Ari sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I just find that horrifying. And I wonder if that's the kind of, like, you're such a good friend. We've all put together our lives on so many different levels.
Yeah.
And then you just,
Except for Scott.
and then Scott doesn't know how to fuck. I don't know why he's just so nice in bed.
Or I'm the only one who knows how to fuck.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Okay,
about that.
don't forget that possibility.
I forgot about
It
that.
sounded like a seal. Is that what you sound like?
Or-
in bed?
or-
or.
I cannot divulge my secrets.
That would be hot.
That would be hot. Do that.
Because it would be wrong, and so it's not
Risky. Yeah.
Is this being naughty? Watch me balance a ball on my nose.
Yes, and. Yes, and.
Clapping my fins together.
Like why? Like I just feel like that's the natural question. Like why open up this whole other avenue of vulnerability?
Yeah.
And then when you're left wondering like what's the payoff? Anyway, I'm not solving it. I just wanted to say that it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't want to like continue to carry that around and not share that with you guys, because that's not fair.
Is this something
We respect
for
and
the
we
audience
respect
as well,
that.
or just
I
for
respect
us,
that.
or is this like is this like a goodbye, or is this changing? Like, am I putting too high?
I did wonder if it's a
nose
goodbye.
on things.
I don't know. Let me
breaking up
let
with
me
us?
figure it out.
Well,
I
just
love
wanna
that,
say-
and I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
On
Yeah,
the
just
show.
think about it.
Yeah.
Because
let me figure it
we're
out.
like when you're in the X-Men, sometimes you know what I mean. Like
Perfect
Jean
analogy.
Grey
Yes.
flies into the star
Yes.
system
Yeah.
because she's Phoenix.
The
and
team
she has other
changes.
stuff to do. Exactly.
The team
Right,
changes
right.
depending on the mission. And I was
Yeah.
just going to say the same for everybody. Open door policy, like if you want to be not here for an episode and
Yeah.
come back at a future time, that's always totally fine. I don't
Cool.
want anyone to feel pressure to have to be here for everything.
Except for you, because you record shit.
The other
have
thing,
to be
the other
yeah,
thing,
podcast doesn't happen without me. I'm central, but yeah, everyone
other-
else is expendable.
the other thing that improv I think helps us see that's totally true here is you have a huge impact on the podcast positively.
Oh yeah,
And I always think everybody should like learn that as much as they can, that like the pH balance is so affected by everybody that's
Mhm.
there.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I
For
just
sure.
hope you know that like we love working with you.
Yeah.
Like, you're okay.
but if you're
And I feel
gone,
the same way about you.
but if you're gone, and we do have another good-looking, sensitive, like dancing genius instead of you, are
Mhm.
you going to be? Are you going to feel
But
upset about that, or are you
Sure.
gonna,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm gonna feel jealous.
All right, I'll cancel my.
Does your
I'm
brother dance? Or...
No.
He's 10 years younger.
He's 10 years younger. Yeah.
What if he came in here and pretended to be Adrian? He's just like, "Hi, I'm Adrian. I'm here for the podcast now."
I don't
Do you guys
like
have the
that.
same voice?
Kinda, maybe. I don't know.
Do you have the
Does
same
your
look?
dad
Do you
have a
look
hot
like?
voice?
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I'm sure
for
he
sure.
I feel like
does.
your dad
Yeah,
got
yeah.
way hotter.
I've
as he got
seen
older,
Adrian's
He
too.
dad.
did. Yeah,
He's-
he did.
He was kind of meh when he was younger, but now he's like a zaddy.
Yeah,
No, he's got
yeah.
hot dad.
Yeah,
Adrian
yeah.
has hot dad for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I can only hope. I'm crossing my fingers.
That your
yeah, dude.
DNA continues
Yeah.
on the trajectory his did
Yeah.
into like
Well,
into
then
the sun.
you're just gonna
of
be
hotness.
people are just
Yeah.
gonna you're gonna be blinding people left and right
Yeah.
if you continue on that trajectory
Yeah.
because you're already attractive.
Yeah, I was like, you're gonna be fine unless you get into a horrific accident or something. Like you're.
I have to admit, seeing your dad, his picture, I'm more in the camp of like, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, I don't want to look that good. I would have to deal with things. I'd have to
That's
sign.
a problem.
Yeah, I'd have to explain why I'm not fucking some people.
Get in line, Ari.
Yeah, I don't want
to explain why you're not fucking.
Yeah, I don't want to be that busy.
Your Honor, I shouldn't have to have sex with him just because I'm so beautiful. Overruled. Click.
Here's a room.
Well,
On
whatever
that
it
note,
is. Yeah. Thank you.
I think we
Yeah.
can probably wrap up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's wrap
Yeah.
To be continued.
There's a cliffhanger. Yeah. What will next
TBD.
episode be like? Who
The
knows?
legend continues. Wu-Tang, Wu-Tang.
Well, thank you guys for
Cream
doing
gets
this.
the money.
And everybody for listening.
Dollar bill, y'all.
If you're
Yeah.
out there, have naughty or nice sex, and let us know if you
Yeah.
fuck more like us or like Scott.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can email us. We have an
Yeah.
email.
What is our email?
canilaydownpod@gmail.com.
Oh,
Let
you
us know how you
can
fuck.
send
Anybody,
emails.
yeah. Let us know how you fuck, but like not in graphic detail.
No, please.
We'll
Extremely
keep your
vague.
we'll keep your anonymity, or you can pick your own name.
In
I
a
mean-
super
non-diplomat.
abstract way, let us know how you fuck with no gross details.
Yes.
Zero.
It's time to say lovely,
right.
lovely goodbyes to the
Well, we
beautiful
never
people out there.
introduced our podcast, so this has been Can I Lay Down?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks
Welcome
for laying
to
down with
the
us.
welcome
for
to
laying
the
down with
pod.
us.
Thanks for laying down with us.
All right.
And now we're done.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye. My queer friends, they call me bitch. They'll be like, bitch. I'll be like, friend.
Yeah.
Good to see you.